All right, welcome to the Redbuddies podcast, straight from Redbud Road. This is our fourth episode. I'm joined by co-host Ahmed Mahmoud and also
Umair Masood, LinkedIn's top 100
Hey.
influencers.
You're gonna really put me on that?
I can't lie. It's the truth.
And what
Forbes top 30 hottest men.
Disclaimer: I'm not a LinkedIn influencer, but I'm an MSA LinkedIn influencer.
I understand it's good to be humble, but you can't be lying. You know you're a powerful person in our community.
Alhamdulillah.
Also, we have in the back
Zarir.
audio guy, Comrade Zarir, the communist.
Yo,
And,
shout out.
Yeah, I've been demoted because of my opinions.
Yeah, we don't accept none of that. We fought wars about that. Okay.
I'll defend it later on, but right now.
Actually,
let's focus on our game.
okay. So let's so in the back we have Zarir, who's a communist, but then as kind of a stark contrast to that, we have Umair Masood, who is one of LinkedIn's top 100 influencers, fueling the
capitalistic society.
the capitalistic society and the corporate world. I mean, what do you guys have to say to each other?
I mean, I respect his talents and everything, but I don't know if it's being used wisely.
Ooh,
Umair, bro.
damn.
He's already a celebrity out there, bro.
Yeah, he's our guest, by the way. You
I
just said
said-
that about our guest.
Damn.
I said I respect him.
You just said you don't think our guests' career choices in life are not wise decisions.
No, I think he's made some very good decisions, and like overall, like the way society is right now, you're kind of forced to make those decisions if you want to survive.
Didn't you just tell me you were at one of the career fairs for one of the top VCs
Oh,
it's
out in
about
San
this.
Francisco?
About this career fairs,
It's not looking too good for you, buddy.
I
Not looking
scouted
too
it out, but even on that, like it's not that I don't want to partake in what happens. It's just that I recognize that the way things are being done is not the best way. And if a change were to come, or if there was an opportunity for a change, I'd be on board with it.
I think socialists are secretly conservative capitalists, right? Because when you look at that ideal in view, I think we all want equality for all. We all want, the lower class to come up, and blend into that middle class, which is by the way, I have a lot of really interesting thoughts about that. But I mean, one of the main reasons why capitalistic society rises up is because people are really ambitious, right? And ultimately, that is the fuel for success. So when more of a person that comes along and has that socialist type of view, he ideally wants good for everyone, but it's missing that capitalistic vibe or ambition, and without that, you've seen countries that embrace that full methodology. They haven't done too well, right? Why? Because they're unstructured. They're missing that point. So I mean, yeah, like you hold value, man, but it all depends on how you blend that with realistic society and the communities that we live in today.
Long live Russia.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what? Now after what he said, you sit behind that camera forever now. You're done. You're relegated.
Damn.
But so you're saying that. So you mentioned how ambition is one of the main things that drive a capitalistic society forward and make it successful. So do you think if everyone has ambition, that there's no people left behind in a capitalistic society?
I think ambition is really, it's a really interesting abstract concept. I was listening to Wale, a rapper, a song, and he's a song called Ambition. And I literally just found this on Spotify last week. I don't know if you guys listen to hip hop.
Wale? Like
Yeah,
Wally?
Yeah,
From
like
the Disney movie?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I thought that was like the Wally from the Disney movie.
no,
Beep,
Wale.
beep, boop, bop,
Wale is
bop.
a rapper.
You know who that
W-A-L-E.
is?
I have no idea what that is.
Wally.
Oh, interesting.
Damn,
But yeah,
okay.
go on.
All right, well, he's not as popular amongst you kids right now. But
I mean, I haven't listened to hip hop in a while, if I'm being honest.
he was it's kind of inappropriate, but he was in that song called "No Hands" by Waka Flocka.
Oh,
He's
okay.
in that song, and that's like one of the top songs. That
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, he has a song called "Ambition," and as you said that, going back to like the driving forces of capitalism, his whole narrative in that song is I came up from the ground up, right? I came up from, you know, whatever level he grew up in, or and most of the songs of redemption and like success are usually based on that. Like I grew up with nothing, but I built my own thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who helped him build that own thing? Himself, but then also like the people around him, the opportunities that he chased around him, and then like what sacrifices he had to make in order to make sure that his ambition was fulfilled. And so like when I was listening to the song, I was like, why do I really like songs like these? Because you get a input into someone who's now successful, or somehow who's his definition of success is what he's rapping about, right? In that song. And I think like that right there, because ambition is so important and is driving success, whoever definition of success you're following, like your definition of success, Usha, could be like, by the age of 30, I want to be a hippie and live in the forest.
Hell no. We actually had a discussion last time about how I hate hippies.
He's wearing the jean jacket today, so I had to bring that up. But like, it's that could be your definition of success.
Okay. Yeah.
So what is your value of ambition to get to that level? Maybe you need money to live in the forest. Yeah. Maybe you need to go build a log cabin. Well, but how are you going to know how to build a log cabin?
Have you read the book 4 Hour Workweek?
It's by who is it by?
Crap, I forget.
Dr. Seuss.
I've heard of it. Yeah. And there's also the other one where 4 Hour Workweek or 5 Hour Workweek, where you delegate your 40 hours into 4 hours, right? Like 4 hours.
You basically you keep cutting until you're at 4 hours.
Yeah, or you keep giving the work to someone else and being like really creative.
Right.
Yeah.
On like, okay, I'll spend 4 hours of work, but really my work will translate over to more than 50. Tim Ferriss, right? Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, you talked about that song Ambition and how he grew up, and the song was not about the end goal. The song was not about where he was and how much money he currently had, but in the song he was talking about what sacrifices he had to make, what things he had to go through, the people around him. And I think an extremely redeeming part, I mean, I'm someone who believes capitalism is actually good for us, unlike the USSR sympathizer in the back. But so I think one of the things that is redeeming about capitalism is sometimes as human beings, the thing that is most important in our lives is not necessarily the amount that we have in our bank account, but the process through which we grow and change. And that's something that you can find in capitalistic society, which is that when you're growing and you're getting to the end point, capitalistic society, as opposed to communism, is something where like you really like in order to get to a point, you need to make changes within yourself. You need to grow. You need to make sacrifices. You need to learn from the people around you. And all of these things help you grow as a person. So I think even though communism at the end of the day might feed more mouths, I think capitalistic society turns all of us into more rugged individuals who, understand what's necessary to sacrifice, what changes are necessary within us to grow.
Yeah.
And I think it's more about us as human beings, not as entities that need to survive, but as entities that
can build their own independence.
There you go.
Umair, you're a very ambitious person. You can talk to a lot of people. I saw like you talked with some like guy on LinkedIn. He posted something. You guys talked in a cafe for like 3 hours. What's your source of? Source of being able to like socialize with so many people? Like you do so much stuff. You told me like send 300 LinkedIn messages a day. So it's like, what's your
300? Is that accurate, or did he just?
I wouldn't say a day, but like over the course of the last year, and we can talk about this a little more in depth. But yeah, like over the last year and a half, I've kind of turned the switch on of I want to go out into the world, like after this Rutgers bubble. Yeah. But where do I start? Right?
Were you always like that?
Yeah, I think that started at a young age. I think it was a thing that it was not like innate, and it's never innate for anyone. I think some people, kind of misunderstand that. If you're an outgoing person, it's innate. Like you're just good at doing it.
Yeah.
I think to some degree, some people are more gifted at it, but it's still something that can be built.
Yeah, it's definitely something that can be built.
Yeah.
And I think the people who become the best at it were all introverts at one point, or were just like really shy people, right? But they developed frameworks for success. They figured out why they needed to do what they needed to do, and ultimately it helped them to realize the value of what developing relationships and talking to people and being outgoing really means to them and their own personalities, right? So the last year and a half to 2 years, my dream has been like to kind of just start a really good career, right? Like be in a place where I'm in an environment where I'm continuously building and learning from the people around me. Because I've been in environments where people are not like, they lack ambition. Right. And when you're around those people, they negatively affect your overall ambition and your overall like character traits. And I've realized that when you flip the switch on the other side and you surround yourself by people who are really driven and know what they're doing, or at least have that energy to provide value in any capacity in their life, right? Whether that's them motivating you, whether that's them being very highly intelligent, either book smart or street smart, or whether that's them creating ideas and being entrepreneurs and really like strong project leaders, or like or just strong hard workers, right? That exposure point is like so important, right? And if you go into a place that gives you that exposure every single day, you're gonna be better every single day too, right? And so that's like, but then my beginning of my journey where I was like, hey, like there's, to an extent, every single job or every single work atmosphere has those type of people, and like that's what they call balanced environment. But one thing I did realize was that people in high functioning like companies, like specifically tech today, which are creating products for everyday users like us, right? You pull your phone out and you have all these magical applications that are driving your life forward, whether that be across finance, whether that be across you booking and getting your own coffee, whether that be across transportation, logistics, and you imagine it, right? We all use technology, and I'm a technologist. I'm a forward-thinking futurist as well. Like I'm always looking at really interesting ideas and trends, and I think
as a side note, Dunkin' Donuts needs to fix their online ordering. 'Cause, you pointed that out as a way that our society is progressing, but as a matter of fact, I have otherwise to say.
It was funny because I actually back a couple years ago, I was sitting in Kilmer with someone, and I wanted to start this company called Chaiwala. And,
I think I remember this.
Really?
Yeah, I was talking to you. I might have mentioned it, dropped it, but it was an idea I really like it. Literally 2 years in a row, I kept thinking about it.
Freshman Ocean.
Maybe.
And it was an app that I wanted to start to deliver chai to people, man. Chai or like coffee to people, right? And then it turned into an idea of like, okay, how do you pull in together people's funds, and like instead of us having to go spend $3 in coffee every single morning, sometimes $6 in coffee every day. If you get it twice a day, like some of us, and we're literally blowing money on coffee in college at Rutgers. They take our money, right? And so I was like, why not just put $3? You get a coffee for a month. Like shared coffee spots. Like take that model of subscriptions and like innovate around it, right? And I wanted to be called Chala. I was like, yo, let's use the Desi name. It's funny because on LinkedIn recently, I just saw someone that started a company called Chaiwala.
Really? Wow.
And there's also a restaurant in North Carolina that is called Chaiwala.
And
I'm sure there's a couple other ones.
Was that made after you?
No, I think it was made before.
Did you follow through with making that?
No, I never followed through because it was just like one of those ideas that I had in the back of my mind, but I knew that it would never work because there's just too much competition on a campus. But interesting silo into just like how much chai and caffeine we consume as Americans.
So, by the way, I've heard you say that term before, silo. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, a silo is what? A silo is like anything that happens in parallel, right? Or any subtopic of a subtopic, right? that's like, I don't know. I've been reading a lot of like articles and just talking with interesting people, and they use the word silo, so I started using the word silo.
When you said when you told so the first time you used the word silo in conversation with me was when you were actually talking about how the payments industry has like there's these silos that are kind of competing with them and filling niches.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought about was, have you watched The Office?
I watched a couple episodes, but I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, there's this. You guys have watched The Office, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, there's this. So basically, he was explaining how like these silos like fill in niches, and they like present these big problems to the big companies. Remember when Michael Scott was like, "Screw it, I'm putting everything on the line."
Wait, was
Just
that,
so basically, Michael Scott is just he was like.
was this when he left the company?
Oh, is this when he made his own?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm you don't watch The Office for the friggin' plot.
No one.
Alright,
no one's
but-
gonna care.
I didn't when I watched it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bro, Zarir freaking rates Netflix movies every like day on his Instagram. 3 out of 5.
There is a friggin'
Dude, the old
comedy.
guard was so bad.
The which one?
The old guard. It's supposed to be a new.
Did you watch? You should have watched Old Boy.
All right, wait, hold up. But yeah, that's what I thought was.
That's what I was.
What I thought was
that's
a
not
silo.
what I would have thought. If you're thinking for an Office example, I would have been thinking of the one where like Dwight, sells off, like parts of the office to like the billboard company or to like this other company, because he's just filling up the niche. Like someone wants to advertise.
Nah, bro, but
That one was more like out of desperation because he didn't like his job and he was just like, "F it, I'm leaving."
okay. I guess maybe they both fit. Yeah, no, but okay, but then he made a silo which was supposed to pose as a threat to bigger companies, and the bigger companies couldn't do exactly what he was doing. Actually, they could do exactly what he was doing.
He just bluffed his way through.
Yeah, he just bluffed. But basically, he acted like he was filling a niche, and then he like basically was able to negotiate with giants. Like you were telling me, these smaller payment companies are basically able to leverage themselves against giants in the industry.
Yeah.
Like small no-name companies basically fighting against like Visa and
We might have a bit of bias.
and MasterCard and Amex and all that, and they're not small no-name companies anymore
Yeah.
because they're filling these niches and they're doing it well.
What's an example?
So an example is like Stripe, right?
Oh, yeah.
You look at Stripe. Stripe is a really cool payments company, started by two really young guys, the Collison brothers. Follow them on Twitter.
Carlson Brothers?
No, the Collison.
Wait, they follow you on
C-O-L-L-I-S-O-N.
Twitter?
Excuse me?
They follow you.
No,
Of
they don't
course
follow
they
me.
do.
I follow them on Twitter.
Why wouldn't they?
I would if they followed me on Twitter, I would be like a Silicon
You'd not
Valley
be.
god by now.
Bro, mere startup coach, bro.
If you don't follow Umair on Twitter, shout out your Twitter.
My Twitter is Massedly, Massedly.
And wait,
Massively?
Massedly.
anyway.
No, it's not a V, it's a D. Massively,
massive-
like
Oh.
Masood, like my last name.
I see.
Okay.
I don't know. It was dumb. I did it in high
Massively.
school.
That was like
It was-
massively.
Yeah,
Massively.
I wanted to do massively because like I wanted to do something with like Masood, my last name, but then like
Massively.
it
big
came out to
Masood.
Massed.
Umair Montrous Masood.
Okay, no, we're continuing about Stripe.
Yeah. So let's actually get back to that topic. Stripe, huge payments company, started by really two smart guys. They like coded their way through high school and like learned everything. I don't think they were college dropouts. I think they ended up doing college. Originally from Ireland. They created an API, which is like an infrastructure for any e-commerce company to process payments. So before, like 10 years ago, when you were starting like your own e-commerce shop, like this is back in 2010, like not too long ago, we were probably in high school at that time, right? Or middle school. And you would have to go up and pay like a lot of money to payment processing companies like Visa or MasterCard or middleman payment platform solutions to just accept credit cards and debit cards on their website. Like it was an insane. There's a lot of bigger middlemen that are in the as you just said, tech stack. That would basically, they would own the solution, and you would have to pay them a good amount of money to accept payments from people, right? And so Stripe came in and they're like, oh, we're really developer friendly. We have a unique way to create like an API that processes payments at speed, right? And so they are now the largest private company in the U.S.
If you're an executive at Visa or Amex or MasterCard or whatever, you see something like that and you're like, oh no, like you're like crapping your pants at that moment, right?
Well, not necessarily. So what Visa and MasterCard, they have different silos, right?
Right.
So it's interesting because when you really look at the business at the core, Stripe supports Visa and MasterCard. You have they have their own infrastructure for processing payments and tokenizing all the different transactions that happen, right? Stripe is just the API that's built on top of Visa and MasterCard. Yeah. So it's accepting Visa and MasterCard.
Right.
So at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that Visa and MasterCard, the two biggest credit card companies that we know that we have credit cards or debit cards for, they actually have huge, extremely huge partnerships with Stripe. Why? Because they now rely on Stripe for a large majority of their business in online e-commerce and transactions, right? But they are competing against them in certain solutions, like these niche, like other. When you get really big, you develop so many different products and goods and services, like you probably know, right, Arshad? Like Stripe definitely has competitor products, but they're so focused on like market share that they're either complementing Visa or competing at Visa in certain parts. So it's like really weird, interesting dynamics and relationships. Yeah. But at the core of it, they're not. It's like Visa and MasterCard is so big. Like they've bought out companies. They're worldwide leaders in payments and the way that we do payments. That it's just you can't compete against them. They will end up buying out any company in their space that directly competes with them, and they'll end up buying out any solution to add to their suites of solutions.
But you can still be a presence enough to where you are a company where they're like, oh crap, we have to buy them out.
Yeah,
otherwise.
So there's a company that they bought out back in January called Plaid for $5.3 billion. I was actually telling Arshad about this.
And what niche did that fill?
So that was basically they had created what they call APIs. And for all the tech folks out there, I know you know what that is, but for anyone who doesn't know what APIs are, it's application programming interfaces. They're just technically they're pieces in infrastructure that allow technologies to communicate with each other, right? Yeah. That is, and you do it through snippets of code. You do it through algorithms.
It's like a little recipe, and they give out these recipes to everyone. And then
it connects two code pieces together.
Exactly, and when you have the recipe, you can just make the thing that's elsewhere in your own.
Yeah, usually it has to do with data. Like APIs are made for data. It's all about what data you're pulling. So if I'm calling Usha to get a rishta. Or an intro to girl, like the API between us is the messaging going back and forth.
So just to clarify, Umair, you're single, right?
Yes, I am single.
That's for everyone watching the podcast.
Pop off.
Hey, I do this for all my beloved guests. Dark was on here. But
I was on there twice a year.
You're like 5 freaking years old, and you're a communist, bro. You're a freaking communist,
aren't
man.
You like 15?
Wait, I feel older than you. How old are you?
I'm 21.
How old are you?
20.
I'm 20. What the heck?
Bro, didn't you come from high school?
Listen, man. I'll get you in like a. All right. If anyone wants to send Zarir or Rishta, there you go. I got you.
If anyone wants an audio guy in their life.
But Umair, on the other hand,
if you want a LinkedIn top influencer, I bet Umair probably has a whole roster.
Yeah,
Umair,
he just says a LinkedIn. Hi, this is Jen from sales.
Oh man, I won't get into that, but I have a funny story. But I won't say it right now.
From LinkedIn.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Wait, Umair, real quick before you get into that, Umair is a capitalist. An ambitious capitalist, has a really fat resume.
I'm a capitalist that's also very social impact driven, right? And you guys can jump into my background in that, but social entrepreneurship, blending capitalists with capitalism. And they call it social capitalism, by the way. It's all about how do you create like transformative ideas that are originally capitalistic. They want to make money, but blend it with making an impact and positive social impact, right? So helping someone's life, but then also trying to make profit in that, then like that is like ideal, right? Because everyone needs to make money as a catalyst, right?
This is a great matrimonial pitch, by the way. Well done. Well done.
Umair's Twitter handle.
So
Umair's Twitter.
Oh my god.
Massively big
massively.
influencer.
It's with the D, alright?
That's what he.
Oh god.
It's a PG podcast. But it's basically what Umair is saying is he makes a lot of money and he's a really great guy. Okay? So there you
He's
go.
a big influencer.
Forbes, what was it?
Forbes top.
Oh no, you
First
were
thirty,
that on
top
me?
30 hottest men.
Yeah. And
LinkedIn's top 100 influencers.
Could you show your shirt actually?
He's wearing it right now.
Yeah, Umair actually.
No, don't zoom in. We'll zoom in the editing thing.
Umair, you actually visited LinkedIn, right? Recently, like this year, right?
Yeah, he went in there. He was like, "Hey, all these freaking employees, get your act together." That's what he was going around there and bossing them around. That's the type of guy that Umair is at the LinkedIn headquarters, by the way.
Oh, that was interesting.
They only give that shirt
To massive people.
to the top 100 influencers.
Wait, are you actually like close with LinkedIn? Like, do they know you?
Yes.
I interviewed with them earlier this year. So
When he said he interviewed, he means people came to him and
Yeah,
he
'cause I was
was the
about to say
person.
I interviewed with Google, but they don't know who I am. No.
no, it's not like LinkedIn is a huge company, right? It's not everyone knows.
They
it.
had to escort Zarir off the premises.
All right.
Alright.
So
Everyone follow me on LinkedIn, Zarir Hamza. I want to get to Umair's level, please.
you want to get to what?
Umair's level.
Oh,
That's impossible.
not gonna happen.
I'll be like top 1,000,
Nah,
top 2,000.
I'm actually one thing that I'm doing right now is trying to create a toolkit of resources for everyone that I think like could benefit from. Because like what ends up happening is that when you get plugged into like different influencers and communities and like you're getting knowledge and you're sharing knowledge, I'm starting to realize that knowledge is really powerful. Like the trends that I get from like even the conversation me and Masood was having just about like his experience at Visa and then how much background knowledge he knows about payments. Like that's like such a niche subject that we can like talk hours on, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not everyone in that room or not everyone like around us that wants to get into tech or doesn't necessarily have that finance experience is going to know about payments or what we're even talking about or understand us, right?
Yeah.
So what I've been realizing is that this can be applied to careers and this can be applied to any type of learning. But primarily, like I was thinking, what at Rutgers in our own niche communities that we have, like can we do just to build our mindset, skills, and like just like have interesting views, right? That we develop over time.
Yeah. Speaking of the Rutgers, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, did you have anything else?
No, I was
that
just
you were
saying like
discussing?
I'm creating like a whole toolkit of resources. So I'm gonna pass that on when it's done to like everyone that I meet and
Pass on his legacy.
not just pass it on. I'm just gonna I'm gonna put in a Dropbox or like a Notion. I don't know if you guys use Notion. Really cool app, by the way. Notion is like a sharing thing that you can just dump resources in and like have like view stuff from.
Like
And-
Google Drive type thing.
No, it's way more intuitive than Google Drive. It's like I don't know if you guys use project management tools like Jira or Asana.
No.
Like all the tech guys. I don't know. Okay,
No. Have you, Zarir?
I've never used Notion.
Jira,
Asana. No,
Asana, I feel like I've heard of. Yeah,
Yeah.
Asana, I've heard of.
Asana's pretty good. And then Atlassian owns Jira. So anyone.
Oh, Atlassian.
Trello,
I applied for
basically.
They had a really hard coding thing.
Yeah, Trello. What the makers of the buyers of Trello. They actually bought out Trello.
This is a question I had before. Like, I'm gonna cut in a little bit here, but like, you talked about how Visa like buys out its competitors whenever they get too big, right? Do you think that's a healthy ecosystem? Having one company getting so big that I
The Soviet theme is playing.
no, this is a serious question. You said yourself, right? Every time a company gets to a certain level and thinks that it's a potential threat, they just buy it out. Do you think that's like a stable ecosystem, like that ideology?
Yeah, for innovation and like creativity, no, it's not, right?
Yeah.
There's a person that I was talking to who like who works for also fintech startups and like smaller like early stage companies, and he's like everyone knows that when a company goes to Visa or acquires Visa, innovation dies at Visa, right? Like companies go to Visa to die.
I
Like
hope
in their
my manager
innovation
is
cycle.
not watching this. Please give me a full-time job offer. I will bleep that out. Thank you very much. I'm kidding.
But everyone knows that they're huge behemoths and their infrastructure and their groups and they have so many like you know not nuances but like so many solutions like ecosystems that they build on top of their business of, and it's really hard when you become a behemoth like that to separate the technology and like innovate, because then when you join a big behemoth, you have to be welcomed into that ecosystem and follow the rules and guidelines of that ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
In order to support all the other functions
No,
of
that's
the
my point. Right?
business.
So like the main going like not even as a joke, like the main thing against socialism and communism is that people say that
I was waiting for that.
it kills creativity and everything, right? It kills creativity.
No,
innovation.
but the root of capitalism is entrepreneurship, is innovation.
Yeah, but if the whole point of entrepreneurship is just to go die at Visa, then what's the point?
No, but that's not the point. The point is to create new visas and master
So
Zarir,
How is that possible?
So
if Visa buys out every
hold
time there's a threat.
Zarir.
it's not like it's a leveraged buyout, by the way. Just let me clarify that. It's more like you make the intention if you're an entrepreneur and you build something, and like Visa's coming on your door and being like, "Hey, here's all this cash.
Dude.
Do you want to keep innovating or do you want to live a good life?"
I can imagine.
Exactly. So why, who would ever
right.
say I want to keep innovating?
Wait,
That it depends on your values as an entrepreneur, and if you're capitalistic or socialist, right?
just-
Like,
Yeah.
or if you just want to cash out and have a good time, like life is to enjoy too,
But I
right?
don't think you really get a choice. Like, let's say for Stripe, right?
You
Let's
do.
say-
You have a
let's say-
choice.
Let's say Stripe.
This is a-
But yeah, I cut our shit out.
No.
I have to talk louder because I don't know if the mic's speaking up. But like, let's say for Stripe, right? Stripe's whole thing is that they interact between like payment processes, right? Let's say Visa comes up to their door and like, we're gonna pay you. I'm making the number up, like $100 billion, buy you out. They're like, oh no, we
100 billion.
We don't want you to do that.
Could've
Then
picked a
Visa's
lower
like, "Alright,
number."
We're just not gonna do any business with you. How does that promote anything? Like,
Yeah.
Well, okay. So on the contrary, Ahmed, what'd you have to
I
say?
was just gonna say.
By the way,
imagine-
Stripe's too big for that. They're valued at freaking 20 bill, almost close to 20 bill, and like that's impossible to
Shut
buy
up,
an oil
Umair.
company at that point. But yeah, go ahead.
Let me make a freaking joke. It's kind of late now, but
Go.
I was like, just imagine Zarir walking like every interview holding like the Russian flag, waving
And the
around.
Karl Marx manifesto in his hand.
Just gets arrested. Zarir's probably a Russian spy. His real name's probably.
Yo,
Raziz.
easy on that. Whenever socialist concepts come up, the FBI knocks on your doors.
Yeah, what's your real name? Raziz Ravensnoff. Ravensnoff comes up.
Yeah. So, all right, Zarir. So just to like make a counterpoint to that. Okay. So on a capitalistic society, sure, you could say that the ambition for money could act as something that's counterproductive to the ambition for like innovation and technology design and all that, because people might put the second to the side to gain money. But then also you could say that the ambition to create new technology and to innovate in that department is fostered by the desire for money. And then also you could say that people who are in a communist society don't have the same level of desire to succeed and to do well in their own fields. So you could make the argument like either which way, but at the end of the day, the USSR don't exist anymore. USA, baby. So what you guys say about that?
Dude, Zarir's really coming back from the last episode.
Huh? Who won the Cold War?
It's a driving point into the next episode.
no, it's not a point. It's just like I think it's a topic of discussion that needs to continue. I'm a
Zarir's a
pragmatic and
radical.
all that, and we've done like good things. And I'm like, there's a lot of things that we should be proud of. in the
Communist
country, but I
confirmed.
think so. A lot of things that have also been done, and the way things are now, I feel like what's that term called? Like when you dig yourself a hole and you just keep Like you're sunken cost fallacy. Like we're so far deep into capitalism, we think that the only way forward is to continue with what we're doing.
Okay, so I think what you're saying has some merit, which is that as a country that is capitalistic in nature, we've basically said, okay, so communism is bad and socialism is like pretty bad too, and therefore capitalism is good. So then everything about capitalism is only good, and everything about communism and socialism is only bad.
Exactly.
And maybe it requires a bit more perspective to say not everything is black and white.
Exactly.
Capitalism is good.
Zarir tried to change his school's curriculum when they were learning about U.S. history.
Well, so like China, right? China's a communist country, but like there's billions of Chinese entrepreneurs, right? So it all depends on the model of what type of socialism / communism you follow. I don't think China is a good example because I don't think they're like fully communist. Like I think they have capitalistic beliefs. They just have communist political values because they want to, you know, they followed USSR early on. They have all this huge history and like they want to maintain those values within their government. What's even scary these days is you know what China is doing into their control over Hong Kong, right? Like that is.
Free my boys in Uyghur too, by the way. Is that how you pronounce that?
Uyghur.
I
think it's Uyghur.
Uyghur Muslims.
Right. Continue what you were saying.
Yeah,
I thought it was Uyghur.
I thought it was Uyghur the whole time.
Well, it depends. It could be Uyghur. Like
I've heard
anything,
Uyghur
right?
the most.
Sorry, you're talking about Hong Kong.
Yeah, so yeah, like that's a whole other subject on its own, right? Like they have all these weird I think their strive for power is more like, you know, we have this belief and vision, and that has been like the miscommunication of what communism is in China and like those socialistic beliefs. And like, you know, and the big debate right now is like their control over like Hong Kong, right? Or their discrimination against Uyghur Muslims and technically mass re-education and killing of Uyghur Muslims, right? And those are like, what would you say to those communistic beliefs, right? Like, you know, that is a direct representation of a communist government.
And also,
right.
I'd like to add that the things that we perceive to be good about the society in China could also just straight up be like misinformation from what I've seen in the past. China has a bad track record of looking really good until someone's like, wait a second, they friggin' lied to us.
Did you guys see that BBC interview with he was grilling him about the Uyghur Muslims.
Oh,
and
no,
really? It was with the ambassador or something.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
It was also
and
kill.
And there were Akil
stopped posting on
where
Facebook,
we get all
please.
our content. But yeah, I mean, there was also another interview where there was an ambassador from China reporting like how many corona cases there were.
Oh,
you could see someone in the back, like you could see him, like imagine this is the camera. You could see his eyes go from here to like there, and you could see like maybe a shadow of like something like that. I forget exactly what it was. It was something, and then
of course,
there's so many things that you see, and you're like, "Jeez, what the hell's going on in China?" I mean, they lied about. I'm pretty sure this is confirmed. They lied about corona cases on multiple occasions. I'm pretty sure at some point they said they were done with corona. How the hell are you done with corona? You got 2 billion freaking people, and it started. You ain't done with nothing. But yeah, I mean, so you're talking about. So to relate that back to what you were saying, you're talking about how entrepreneurship and all this can be fostered more within China. But I think yeah, I agree with that. But I think like everyone knows that there's like a dark side to the entrepreneurship in China. But I think it's worse than we think. I think we know it's bad, but I think it's even worse.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look at what's going on with TikTok these days, right? You know, they're owned by ByteDance, huge, one of the biggest companies in China.
What's the name?
ByteDance.
ByteDance.
Yeah. Which is TikTok, WeChat. We pay a bunch of all the major.
Wow, they're WeChat and WePay too.
I believe so, or like no. So WeChat, WePay is owned by. I forgot what the name was, but it's again like a lot of these companies have the same investors, same money flowing through them. They're huge conglomerates. Right now, the controversial debate is TikTok is being canceled in the U.S. Why? Because freaking privacy data is being leaked to Chinese government from our phones. right?
So
and
aren't they going to shut that down in like a month or something?
no, Microsoft is trying to buy it.
yeah, it's good.
Oh, really?
I heard it's
That's
basically
cool.
good now.
Mm.
Like,
Did they confirm the acquisition? I don't know.
well, it was supposed to happen. So
I wouldn't mind if it got shut down.
I don't know if I want
I
to go
don't
on
use
record
it.
saying this, but I have used TikTok.
Oh man.
I haven't made TikToks. I haven't made none, but
You
I've viewed
use
some
it, bro.
videos. I've viewed some videos on TikTok.
Yeah,
Some TikTok.
me too.
And yeah, so we'll edit that part out. But anyways, yeah, so there was a notification on there. There was a day that when TikTok was supposed to go down, and then they basically put out a notification to all users, and they were like, "We stay in." You know the Wolf of Wall Street. Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall
Oh
Street?
yeah, well,
Yeah,
I'm
of course.
saying.
That one scene that was like,
Haven't seen
you know what?
I'm-
F it. I ain't leaving. That was TikTok. And everyone was going freaking crazy, making posts. They were like, oh my
Bro,
God.
freaking TikTok, I see the same, like, I used it once, and then, dude, it was, like, the same kind of post again. I was like, my girlfriend this, or then, like,
No.
bro. It's, like, the same
No,
algorithm.
but you
It's-
think the TikTok sharing data thing from China is bad, but do you really believe that any of the American apps don't do that to their foreign countries? Like, I just think data, like,
Well, I think this was the more obvious one where it was just like,
I think it's only
oh.
obvious to us, but I'm pretty sure other countries have different statements about U.S. American apps. It's just because we live in America and like what we see is like.
No, dude, I don't think
You really
Americans.
don't think anything with Google is just like, and Facebook is like they're
Oh no,
data free.
I don't think so. But I think the TikTok one again. Like I
The
haven't
TikTok
done.
one is
I haven't done
exas-
all
is
my research.
exaggerated for
It's-
the Chinese.
it's-
And,
Right,
like, it's
right.
the
And
stigma.
what is that? That's a U.S. versus China debate.
Yeah.
That is
But-
a U.S. versus China
No,
power struggle.
I don't think
Right.
it was exaggerated because of U.S. versus China or because of the stigma about Chinese software and all that. I think it was exaggerated like for good reason because I think that I'm forgetting exactly what was going on, but there was some fishy stuff about TikTok that wasn't going on with Google, Facebook,
What
or
do you mean fishy stuff?
there was some fishy stuff.
I have no
So
idea.
do you know like do you know what breaches of privacy were going on within TikTok?
I was reading very briefly on it, but they had said like they were looking at all our like personal information from us.
Yeah,
and stuff,
so
right?
so that's in
Like-
vague terms, and right now I wish we could pull it up, if you could pull it up actually. Jamie, pull that up. But Ahmed, have you heard about this?
I only heard about them shutting down
Yeah.
the app in the U.S. That's
Yeah,
the most
well,
I've heard about it.
So basically, there's always been the HDMI is right there. There's always been issues with Google and Facebook, and the audio is still recording, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's always been issues with Google, Facebook, whatever, having
Privacy stuff.
Yeah.
privacy problems.
That's been the major thing, right?
But-
GDPR. Yeah.
Yeah. So but TikTok now, this is a new thing where someone made a post on Reddit.
They're like
They type in Reddit right after so that you could.
they're more invasive.
Yeah. So someone on Reddit basically reverse engineered TikTok, and he noticed.
I'm assuming. Privacy analysis.
Yeah, sure. And then basically when he reverse engineered TikTok, he saw that TikTok had measures in place so that when people reverse engineered it and tried to see what was going on the inside, they had measures in place to like create the illusion that nothing was happening to those people.
Wow.
Now I don't know how the hell you do that, and I'm talking out of ignorance right now, but I'm saying this based off what someone else told me. Don't use.
Here we go.
And go to the other thing.
Just make sure it's still.
Yep, we're good. So I don't know if you guys can see that okay, but
Zoom it in.
yeah, zoom in just a bit.
Yeah, there we go. More. There we go.
Wait, so what is the GDPR again?
That was the policy that was passed in Europe
Yeah.
for like companies like Facebook and Google to not share data without actual like complicit like confirmation from your end.
Yeah.
And cookies tracking.
Right.
So yeah, that was like huge in
Uh-huh.
Europe.
And so basically, TikTok does not go in depth. I think the problem was that TikTok does not go in depth with what they're asking you for. They're just like, hey, can we just like have access to things? And then you have used other apps. You're like, oh yeah, sure, you can have access to things. It's like imagine the problem with Google and
Why was the Google search manifesto by Zarir? He was like reading it while we're talking.
imagine So imagine like Google and Facebook like knocked at your door and they're like, "Hey, can we use something in your house? Can we go use your bathroom?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure." And then they use your bathroom, and now the big debate was whether or not Google or Facebook is allowed to come into your house and use your bathroom.
Yeah.
Now TikTok came along, they knock on your door, like, "Hey, can we use your house?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure," thinking that they're gonna use your bathroom like Google and Facebook just did. And then they freaking walk to your basement, they look around, they start taking pictures, and you're like, "Hold up, TikTok's a little bit different than Google and Facebook."
That's a great metaphor, by the way. But I don't know if they would go into the basement. That's kind of weird.
Hey,
Like, what are you hiding down
There's
there?
something
Like,
special about the basement.
well, they go to the basement because if you're hiding something, where are you gonna hide it? The basement.
I don't know. There might be something else going on in the basement.
so they're trying to basically use it for blackmail. That's what you're
No,
saying.
but like, you can see
I don't
right
know
here,
what they're
in this
using it for.
Analysis. I'm assuming this is what you're referencing because
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of stuff. Don't let TikTok get away with whatever they did, just like Facebook did for 10 years. So like, I don't know why we keep pretending that this is a Chinese only thing.
Oh, we're not pretending
I
it's
know,
a
but I really think this.
You know,
data
man,
thing-
you
I
make
think
some
this-
freaking made up narratives in your head,
I really
okay?
think this data
All right,
privacy
man.
thing is really like it's not overblown, but like we're so deep into it. Like we're never gonna find out what's like actually happened. We should just all assume that all of our data is already out there. Like people are finding Facebook now, TikTok, and like gonna find like Gmail is corrupted, and then like I don't know, League is corrupted, and like random stuff. Like in the end, just realize that your data is out there, whether you like it or not, and like just accept it.
Comrade Zarir, do you believe that a human being has a right to their own privacy?
I feel like that, right? I feel
Oh
like
my god, the answer is yes!
They do.
The answer is yes!
Yeah, they do, but like it's already gone. Like whether it be like a communist company or a capitalist company or a Chinese company.
Comrade Zarir, do you
Yeah.
believe that a human being has a right to their own privacy?
Yeah.
His answer is no.
I said yeah, but I said
Mm.
in the current society.
That wasn't
I really
too
think that
convincing.
Everyone's already compromised. So I don't know why they keep.
You said yeah, but
We might as well throw our credit card.
yeah, you're gonna want to. He's saying the headphones.
Wait, no, just make sure that you're hearing us.
Yeah.
Okay, all
If
right.
you can, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Let's try this one more time. Comrade Zarir, do you believe that a human being should have the right to privacy?
Dude, this podcast is pure evidence for Zarir to go on trial for being a Russian.
Oh my god.
He's not
dude.
gonna have any straightforward answers on trial. He's like, well,
Yeah. You're gonna be like freaking. You're talking about Facebook. You're gonna be like Mark Zuckerberg
dude,
at the
I wonder
freaking
what
trial.
Zarir's Google searches are.
No, I mean, no, I
US
know.
also.
You see Mark Zuckerberg at the trial when they're like, Mark, are you? It's Mark. This is a yes or no question. What is it? He's like, well, actually, if you think about it.
Zarir's desktop background is the USSR flag. I don't know if that's any better.
It's actually what?
It's Ferris and it's our missed picture. And just Ferris for some reason is in the middle.
Alright.
What in the? What kind of weird fetish is that? I'm sorry.
And then they're holding the USSR flag with Ferris.
But yeah, this is a big thing right now. TikTok and China and communism and how yeah. Okay, so this is I guess we've pushed a lot of things onto the stack, and now I'm gonna
Let's unravel it.
let's unravel this. Let's pop them off a little bit. So yeah, I mean, this all started kind of with whether or not a capitalistic society is better to foster entrepreneurship, or whether or not a communist society is better to foster entrepreneurship. And as Americans, it is definitely the first one.
Our U.S. history classes teach us like capitalism fuels creativity.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, and I think people can argue that. People can come from different views about that. But ultimately, I think we're, like, coming from, like, the entrepreneurship side and believing that we have the opportunity at capitalism is a huge thing here in America.
Yeah,
Like, the whole idea of
absolutely.
American dream is why people come here in the U.S. and why our first generation, second generation, like our parents, grandparents came to America in the first place was because they heard of this weird notion that America was like a dream place, right?
Yeah.
And it was. We grew up here, and like, and yeah, Zarir is
cringing.
Zarir is cringing right now, but to an extent, like let's face it, like majority of the technology we used today was created by immigrants, right? Like even the companies that we're talking about, Google, Facebook,
Dude.
like they wouldn't have existed
My
with
continue going.
With all these people, right? So
my team at Visa that I just my manager's team, which I technically wasn't a part of, but inshallah, if I get that full-time offer, all people straight from India, and there's this hard-working grit that we have that Desi people and immigrants have, because they came here and they're like, oh, we need to make it, and that's us, baby.
Grit is a beautiful
that's
word.
Us.
I love that word. Yeah.
No, I
The
agree.
grit. That's
Grit.
us.
I agree.
That's us, and I'm so glad and I'm so extremely grateful, alhamdulillah, that I have grown up in I've grown up in a family where, like, the generation before me, my uncles, my dad, they tell me stories about how they got here and they're working and they were working like extremely long weeks, 70, 80-hour weeks in warehouses. They came here and they were coming to, so my dad one time worked at a shoe store, and he worked his ass off so hard that people noticed this in you, and he became a manager. And that's us, man. That's the thing I'm proud of. And that was, that's like drilled inside me. And sometimes I get lazy and I feel like, I feel really like guilty for it, because like that responsibility for your own life and your own well-being and working hard for it and just freaking, just getting through the mud and just crawling through it to make things work and to make ends meet.
Absolutely, 100%.
That is something that I'm so grateful for. And when I was younger, maybe I didn't have everything I wanted. Maybe sometimes I asked my parents for something and I didn't understand why I couldn't get it when all the other kids had it. But now I have something a lot more valuable.
So to kind of just go full circle, I know Arshad is a moderator here, but
no, go ahead.
Full circle on like what we started at, like why do I network so hard on LinkedIn? Why do I want to be in an environment and like at a tech company where like I'm pushed to the limits to create really interesting and really vibrant and impactful products? Why do I want to be surrounded by smart people? It's because of that, right? Like, in order to fuel that grit to a whole nother level and really define your version of success, or that word success you have. Again, I was just talking to a friend yesterday. Everyone has a different version of success, right? And it's important to note that. Like, not everyone has, I think in communities, it's important, like we realize that, we all have the same version of success, like get married, buy a big house, like do this, do that, donate to the masjid, build another masjid, all great things, right? Yeah. But as we get into become second, third generation, where our institutions are already built and we're part of these institutions, it's taking that step further and figuring out, okay, what do we have to do more? What do we have to do more to capture that American dream and build on top of what our generations before did? Right? Absolutely. And that's where our like continuous fuel of grit. And if you look at and study some of the highly successful people in our society, in the U.S. alone, all of them continuously push the boundaries of that definition of success, right? So full circle on that, like why did I hit up 200 people on LinkedIn the last 2 years? Because I'm trying to further define what success looks like for me, but then capture on the opportunity that I have, the energy that I have as a young person while I'm still like in my 20s, right? Yeah. To figure out that, yes, if I can get it early, this is only going to create more ROI for me in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about, and this is kind of something that will, it'll connect something we were talking about earlier. So you're talking about LinkedIn and how, as someone looking for opportunities, not just for jobs, but just to connect with people. Yeah. Like LinkedIn, like, there's this notion that LinkedIn is to get jobs, but LinkedIn is also just to make genuine
Genuine, authentic relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
And here's something that's really important about genuine, authentic relationships. And, when you're reaching out to these people, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether this be when you're talking to a person in an interview or whatever it might be, when you're talking to them face to face, there's this, there's this very genuine confidence I see from you. And, there's an element of confidence and genuineness that you need with a person. And so something I wanted to talk to you about actually is there's definitely a difference, like when you're starting, like you shoot out all these messages and it seems really ingenuine. You do your first interview and you're like this and that, you're doing all the things that people tell you to do. You're like, they're like, oh, like put your hands here, like stand with your back up straight. You look like you just look like you're trying so hard. So there's a difference clearly between genuine confidence and a very put on version of confidence, a very made up confidence. So how do you go from someone that's how do you differentiate between these two? How do you go from someone that embodies genuine confidence? How do you go from someone that isn't to someone that is?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And Ahmed has genuine confidence all the time.
Really?
Whether that's fake or not.
Wait, what did you say? He said, whether I what?
Whether if it's fake or not, right? Like your confidence in general. Just
look at his freaking hand.
Look at that.
It's fake confidence. I faked everything.
Take me out of dinner first. What the hell?
So like just to answer the question, right? Like I do believe there is a concept of fake it till you make it, and that type of methodology is actually successful to an extent because really, okay, I'm gonna get really deep here. Like your environment is your perception of your reality, right? And you control your reality, right? These are like the conversations I have with that guy that you told me that, like, with these old Rutgers alums. I think Ahmed earlier in the podcast mentioned that, like, there's this guy that I met at Rutgers at Henry's Diner for like 3 hours, right?
This guy's just coming out to the bathroom and Omar's like, what's in that?
He's a Rutgers guy.
Do you have a couple minutes to talk about our Lord and Savior?
Omar's just at the urinal, he's like, your perception of your environment.
They had the 3-hour conversation at the urinals next to each other.
That's how good Umair is. That's how confident he is. He's just like standing at the stall for 3 hours. He's like, man, are you done? He's like, wait.
So like it's funny. So let me drag into that a little bit. There's this guy, Rutgers alum, very successful. He mentors Rutgers kids. I just met him at a career building class that I was taking. It was an easy elective. I think Ahmed, he's the one who told me about it. It was
career management.
Yeah, it was career management or one of the electives for SAS. That's career. By the way, both Rutgers has a lot of career classes, and I took all of them, and all of them have their own unique strengths. Highly recommend if you're kind of lost about your career, just like step in that class and just take it.
Also, interesting note here. I took CS 111 with Umair. I just want to put that out.
That was a great experience. I love that.
I enjoyed that class with Umair. We struggled together. We worked hard together. Umair was stressing out every week.
I remember that.
Umair, literally, like, first week of class, he's like, yo, we gotta study for this final.
That's the type of guy Umair is. For all the ladies watching this right now, that's the type of guy Umair is.
Umair has a tenacity that I didn't have in CS 111.
Tenacity.
Umair is already planning his wedding with you.
Dude, Umair made like 5 connections in our CS 111 class. Dude. He was like, I know this guy that I just met in lecture. I was like, we were like, what the? This guy's making connections everywhere he goes.
Mashallah, it's an incredible technique. But yeah, so continue with what you were saying.
So there's this guy, and forgetting his name, but I know him really well.
You know him really well.
Dude, I'm bad with names.
He has his phone number in his phone.
I'll be very honest. It's one of my weaknesses. Like some names I remember really well, and then some.
You
names
probably know
like,
a lot of people though.
Yeah. Like I will know a person by their face, and I will automatically pick up on our last conversation.
Right.
That's good.
Like even if it's like 2 or 3 years back, like
That's
I'll be
crazy.
like, oh yeah, that's where
Yeah,
you're at.
yeah.
And I'll just talk. Like and I think that's like one of my
That's a really good skill.
like it's a good
That
skill
also
that
feels
I
really
like
genuine.
highlighting.
When
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like
that's
pick up,
when
it like makes them feel like you remember.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, how's your
Yeah. How's your
dog doing?
Yeah.
So remember that
Based on the
concert
last
that-
interaction.
He's like, remember the urinal?
Omer, to all the ladies, Omer will never forget your anniversary date or your birthday or nothing like that.
You just might forget your name.
You might just forget your name.
Well, they're always a
When we're
nickname.
signing the contract,
Yeah,
says
yeah.
someone's name. He's like, yeah, I know that. Like,
Sorry, continue,
So
yeah.
so he just mentor. He's like a huge Rutgers fan. Like he knows all the basketball players at Rutgers. He knows all the sports players. He just comes. He's just on campus like all the time. Like he's a reporter. So what he does for his life is like he has a segment. He just interviews people. That's his life. He's like in his 60s or 70s, and like he's a Rutgers alum. He loves everything Rutgers. He's always wearing a Rutgers hat or a Rutgers shirt. Always dressed preppy. He used to be a pharmacist who graduated from Rutgers
oh,
Pharmacy.
really?
Oh, we talked
Yeah.
about pharmacy.
And he graduated pharmacy. 3 years into his career, he hated it. He was like, I hate being
There
a
we go.
pharmacist.
There
We
go.
made a point. We made a point in previous episodes about how no one should be a pharmacist.
Interesting. Yeah, so from his perspective, that's literally, he's like, I studied so hard at Rutgers to be a pharmacist, and I hated every single minute of my job.
Geniuses.
Yeah.
And then he basically started working for, at that time, like during the 70s, 80s, he started working for Luxottica, which is the company that we buy sunglasses from. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
They own Ray-Ban and all the
Oh, yeah, I
major
have that.
Gucci.
Yeah.
and, like, they own all the sunglasses brands. And so he started sunglasses. He started a sunglasses like reselling
Yeah.
Right.
shop
Is this after pharmacist?
after pharmacy. He just left everything, and he knew that he had a tenacity to connect with people or a
Yeah.
skill to connect with people. So that's what he did. He became a really good salesperson.
Yeah.
And he used to sell all these sunglasses. Ultimately, he became in this reseller organization. He became really high in the organization and ended up working. He always mentions it all the time. He ended up working for like the Italian like big boss of like Luxottica, the one who originally started Luxottica.
Wow.
And he shadowed him for like a year or 2 years. And he learned all the sales tactics from this Italian mob. Not Italian mob boss.
Italian mob.
Well, he kind of is a mob
Italian
boss. But this
Part of the
Italian,
mob.
very seasoned businessman.
Right.
And he's like, that's what made me successful. He made a
Yeah.
lot of money doing that, and then became a reporter and like did all this other stuff on this businesses on the side.
Yeah.
And then now like he's a retired guy. He just
Yeah.
basically writes content. He
Yeah.
loves
Right.
writing content, and he loves adding Rutgers people on LinkedIn.
Mm.
So again, that whole going back to that
So
LinkedIn.
the confidence
Wait, what's
thing.
his
Yeah,
name?
go back to that.
His name is Mr. Schwartz. His last name is Schwartz. His first name is Calvin.
Wait, does
Calvin
he,
Schwartz.
Does he have a wife by any chance?
See, I remember that name.
I never took it, but I know there's a marketing professor named with the last name Schwartz. I
There's
was
a lot of
wondering if
people
he's
there with the last name
Oh.
Schwartz,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a common name. But
Back to the confidence thing. If yeah, that you
But
were
before we do get back to that, I want to like, I think something I released that we could talk about it later, but
yeah.
like finding your own like true passion, like outside of like studying for stuff you don't even like
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool to like
Yeah.
find your own passion.
yeah,
Let's come back to that though.
Yeah.
So let's the confidence thing. Yeah.
yeah. So
Keep that. Keep
again,
that
going
in
back
mind.
to that, right? Like he networks with a lot of interesting people, and then I met like the conversation point that we had was about we got into spirituality, like it was just like this non-Muslim guy and me, and we ended up talking about spirituality, and that's where like the whole idea of I asked him this pivotal question. I was like, you've lived so many years, you've connected with so many Rutgers alums, you still come back to Rutgers to connect with us. Tell me about what your recipe for success in developing good relationships is.
Mm.
And he was like just care about them.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, when was the last time you picked up the phone and you genuinely just called someone you haven't spoken to?
Yeah.
in
And
a
you
couple
can
months or years.
tell so easily when someone's on the phone with you, and they're like, "How are you, sir? How's it going? Please give me a job."
Exactly. And where does that genuineness come from? And like providing value in relationships, and then going back to how that plays into confidence and fake confidence versus real confidence when you're like interviewing or talking to people or networking, or maybe you admire someone and you just don't know how to connect with them. By the way, this is all taught in this class called Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship by Professor Mukesh Patel. I'm going to advertise that right now.
Does the professor? No, because I've heard you say that so many times.
That class was actually promoted in a class I was in by the professor.
Oh my god!
He's like, take this class I just started.
I just think that
they
like,
must pay you. They must pay you.
He doesn't pay me, but I got paid in credits.
Funny thing, when we actually showed up on a PowerPoint I was in class, and I was like, hey.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what PowerPoint.
Interesting.
It was like during business forum. I hate that class.
Yeah, so interesting thing, right? Like, great class, by the way. Everything that I discussed, because it comes from a lot of those concepts discussed in class, and I took it with a couple Muslims. I took it with Ayman, who graduated last year, who works now at NASA.
Ayman Saleh?
Yeah, Ayman Saleh. Wow. He's low key about it, but now he's on the West Coast working for NASA. I taught Asim Nurza. I took that class. He's also in tech. Interesting. Like, we took it because we heard about it from other people. And it's a really good class. I think more Muslims need to be in, because when I was in that class, there's like one or two of us who are Muslims. Yeah. And when I look at the Muslim community at large, we need to be in those classes because we need to tinker our critical thinking and our ways to develop that confidence. Right? So going back to developing confidence, the way we develop that confidence is how strong we are in again analyzing that reality. And what I mean by that is critically thinking about what you want to achieve or what you want to do, or what scenario you're in, and how you're going to stand out and differentiate yourself in that scenario.
Yeah, and to be extremely true and genuine to that, and then the confidence comes naturally.
Naturally,
so like,
exactly.
So like what I've noticed...
like even right here, what we're doing right now, we're critically thinking about certain topics.
Yeah, exactly.
And we need to exercise that more.
Yeah, and the thing is, when we're doing this, we don't need to think about being confident, because when you're confident in what you're saying, naturally you exhibit confidence.
If you force it, you're not going to feel it naturally.
Exactly.
Correct.
And confidence is this weird thing where, like, dude, sometimes I go to the, I'm out in public and I see these dudes like talking to me and doing these things, and they're just like, they're like that, they're walking around with their freaking chest out, and they're talking to me and they're like, how's it going? How's your classes? And they're like talking really like, and I'm like, dude,
who talks like
that? No, like there's people that talk like that, and they have like really, really like firm, like put on handshake.
You're trying to prove something.
Yeah, and I'm like, look, dude, I know you just watched a YouTube video about how to be confident, and it's clear.
I know you just watched the podcast.
No.
Hey man, I really want to be.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. But like you can tell when someone has just watched a YouTube video about how to be confident, and they're trying to do those things. And confidence is this weird thing where if you play the confidence game, you're automatically not confident. It's like a paradoxical thing where if you try to be confident, you're not confident. But now in your head, if you just stop playing this game, if you remove yourself from this, like confidence is not a competition. You just believe strongly in what you say, believe strongly in what you do and what you think, and confidence comes naturally.
Yeah.
I want to make my bad.
Go ahead.
I just want to make a quick point. This like also relates Islamically. Like, you know how it said if you chase after things in this world, like if you don't chase after them, they'll come to you naturally.
Come to you.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's the same concept.
Right. It's one of those things where the way you achieve it is by not chasing it.
Exactly.
And it just comes, and like you can tell so freaking easily when confidence is put on versus when it's genuine. Like so here's the thing, and now this is something I noticed like as I was doing it. When I talk, sometimes I do hand
we all do hand
right?
gestures,
right?
I do hand gestures.
And like
You start doing a dance.
yeah, it's like so like you can tell when like I can tell when someone's talking to me and they're just like, I'm like, dude, stop watching freaking YouTube videos about how to talk.
That reminds me of the dance yesterday. You have to do like.
Oh yeah, the freaking. So, oh man, UFC 2. That's gonna be a good one. But we'll talk about that later. But anyways, like I can like sometimes you see in people like you see like they're they learned like, oh, when you talk, use hand gestures. Let me tell you this. How about you just genuinely believe in what you're talking about, and your body,
it'll do it for you.
Your body will express that. Not just your mouth, not just your words.
It'll move for you.
Your whole body will express that.
Yeah.
So
I know Zarir does it really well when he's talking about his communist beliefs.
yeah.
Did you do debate or Model UN in high school?
I never did. No.
Okay.
Why?
No, I was just curious because I did Model UN in high
Uh-huh.
school because I went to Islamic school for high school and Model UN is pretty big.
We have a thing on Islamic school too.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Everything just comes around.
Me and Zarir went to the same. Well,
NUI?
I went to NUI.
You went to
so-
NUI? Okay.
Yeah,
Did you,
so I
like,
graduated
bully
from
Zarir?
NUI? Huh?
Did you bully Zarir for being communist?
Dude, I was popular.
You're
Only
popular.
seniors, I think.
Oh, so you knew Zarir before this? Like you guys?
No,
were
he
acquainted?
was like 3 years younger than
Oh.
me. So
Like, I think we were aware of each other. I was aware of his.
yeah, I knew.
He was
Yeah.
aware of his
Of course, you're
presence.
aware of his existence.
Plus, Zarir also
LinkedIn
left in
stuff.
8th grade too. He wasn't there in high school. So.
Dude, Umair was probably teaching your classes back then. Professor Massive Umair.
But,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, what did I want to talk about? What I wanted to say was, yeah, I did Model UN in high school, and that taught me a lot about people. Like, and like, I also, like, I did a lot of stuff in high school, right?
Mhm.
Like, my parents are also nonprofit founders who know a lot of very successful Muslim businessmen and businesswomen, or just entrepreneurs in general. Because they created a platform for them just to voice their opinions and communicate with each other. So I found a lot of that confidence be built through high school, right? Like that was a very pivotal moment for me, and there was times in high school where that wasn't appreciated in my environment, and I would just be like, screw this screw this school,
Screw anyone.
because they don't understand my thinking and my the vision that I have or what I want to pursue. And I think that they've actually changed their ideas and habits, and I think Zarir is probably a product of that.
Umair was the
Or
innovator.
maybe some people from his class are a product of that. Like they started realizing that kids at NUI are innovative and like they need to change their old habits. And that's any institution. Like Rutgers has to do that too, right? But that confidence, it's like confidence is built over time in environments that you practice that in. Right? If you're not practicing it, it's not just going to get good like tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? When people leave Rutgers and they start their first job, they don't know much about the first company they're joining if they haven't done internships, right? Or they don't know where to start their career if they haven't been exposed to different career paths, right? And ultimately, that's what confidence is. You have to be willing to experiment and start tinkering with your learning and like figuring out, okay, how do I be productive and how do I keep learning about myself, the people around me, the environment around me, and ultimately define that reality that I want to pursue.
Yeah, exactly. And
or build towards.
Like you said, it takes practice. It takes like just reps, just repetitions. People. Something that people say about me to me is that when I'm speaking, I'm able to exemplify like confidence in what I'm saying, and like when I'm talking to people, sometimes it's easier to carry a conversation. You know how many friggin' interviews I went to, and I was like, right? You know how many times I was talking to people, and I was like, so it doesn't
Asha, do you talk to girls like that?
No, but
Bro.
to all the ladies.
Umair's so confident he does his interviews at the urinal.
Hey. Umair
had a 3-hour conversation.
Wait, who told you I use urinals? Maybe I don't.
Okay.
So it was to another stall. So he was in one stall. The other guy was
through the door.
No, he goes under. He's like. he just peek left. He doesn't peek left. He's like.
Yo, for Umair slides his LinkedIn over.
I slide my hand over and be like, hi, how are you?
His head pokes out. He's like, sir, do you have a couple minutes to talk about our Lord and Savior?
Alright, beat the Bleaky Jamaat. Tap on the next stall.
Oh my god, it's a Bleaky Jamaat. Oh boy, what were we just talking about?
Confidence. Mess up on interviews.
Oh yeah. Oh, so the people who are confident, the people who look like they have some conviction when they're talking, the people who are able to talk and relay a message, and for you to hear and be like, wow, well said. Those people a lot of times did not say things very well. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how they got good at it. So if you want to be a social being, and if you want to be someone who has mastery of their own words, you got to speak. If you want mastery of your own words, you got to speak. If you want mastery of anything else, you got to do it.
Yeah.
So I think confidence is this weird thing where people think, if I put my shoulders up, I am a confident person.
Yeah.
If I do this and that, it's not gonna happen.
It's built up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we're like looking at one topic of like just public speaking and speaking in general.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But confidence relates to everything else, right? It's like, what's your like subject of expertise? Like, what are you studying? Like, what do you have overall knowledge in and are ready to like from like day one to jump into something and be like, I have confidence that I can do this, right? Or I have a skill in this, or I know about this, right? The reason why I'm able to talk so confidently about payments with Arshad and like fintech and finance stuff is because I've worked in finance, right? Like that was my last internship. I worked at a bank, and then I've been reading like blogs and articles and like hours of material in that space, and I've been talking to people from those companies, and I've been analyzing those companies, and so like a lot, and you become confident at one point when you have all that input, right? But I can't say I'm confident about the UFC fight that happened last night, right? Because like I haven't been following that personally, as you guys have been.
We'll
right?
talk about that. If you're watching this podcast, we're about to talk about that later.
Right? And like that's like I'm not confident about that. Like I can definitely like contribute to the conversation, which like that's also another finesse skill. Is like they call that like BSing, which is not necessarily good, but could be good in some scenarios. But ultimately, it's like when you figure out when you're passionate about that subject,
Exactly.
that then authentic confidence will
Passion,
follow.
passion drives your confidence.
Yeah, 100%.
High school,
That's a good quote. That's a good quote. Is that Ahmed Mahmoud original?
I usually take stuff from there. I'm a plagiarizer. Dude, back in high school, like we had this public speaking, and I'll be honest, I never liked public speaking, but we had like in history we had this thing. We would have to do public speaking like 2 times in the year for our history class, and you could talk about anything you want. All you needed to be there was like for 10 minutes, and you'd get an A. And I really wanted an A because it was my junior year. So I was like, I need an A. Let me see what I can talk about for like 10 minutes. First time I did, I talked about a sandwich for 10 minutes. I genuinely talked about a sandwich.
And were your hands moving and all that?
Dude, I just genuinely did it.
Came out. It just
Dude,
came
the
out.
second time I talked about a shaving razor. I kid you not. Dude, my teacher loved it, bro. He's like, how do you do this? I was like,
But creating subtopics and like figuring out how to elaborate on a sandwich is hard,
dude,
man.
I was like, I love the way it tastes. I don't know, but I obviously did some prep before that, but I was like, if I'm feeling this
5
time,
minutes inside.
yeah, I'll say they're dancing like.
Yeah, but that's a UFC meme, by the way. We'll talk about that later.
Dude, but if you're feeling the subject, you can just like genuinely go on hours for it.
Yeah.
By the way, I like dancing too.
You don't even. We have such a.
Umair also dances for weddings.
Umair dances, but
Umair's a professional dancer.
our recent discovery is that dancing is actually not great if you want to win fights right afterwards. More on that later. But crap, what was it? I just had a
passion and confidence.
Yeah, I just had a thought and then I lost it.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
We should just see Umair dancing in the meantime.
Could you just?
You know those like intermissions or like we're having technical difficulties. It's just
No, I've been practicing the wave. Like how you do that with your hands.
I just had it was on the tip of my tongue. I swear to God.
Dude, imagine hiring Umair like speak at weddings. He could dance and speak at your wedding.
Yeah, I was just talking to my friend about that. Apparently, there's some like Arab weddings that he went to recently where they paid for the MC.
Yeah, the MC, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Good
that.
MC.
Usually, like when I've been to Desi weddings, the MC is usually the family guy. Like, and you don't pay for it. No. Besides, they paid for a separate MC besides the DJ.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's crazy to me. Like usually
yeah.
it's the family member who's the trusted guy to introduce everyone and be the MC.
I've only been to one wedding, and it was like a super rich person wedding, but like, they had this dude that was like everybody clapping, all like introducing blah 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 blah. And it was, like, really
that guy's paid.
I know.
That's a great job. Yeah.
Dude, imagine them announcing Umair's name at a wedding. Umair monstrous Masood.
Hype man, that'd be a perfect job.
I love being hype man. I am a hype man. I was hype man for Roshni rides, by the way. A. If you guys know
We'll
what that
talk
is.
about-
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit. A whole prize.
Yeah.
And Roshni writes. But also, I remember what I was gonna say. So
good.
there's this. So there's this. Yeah. So Ahmed was talking about how like he went up and he talked for like 10 minutes about something, and I imagine at some points along the way there were moments of silence, right? Now, moments of silence is a really interesting thing and a powerful tool used by public speakers, and something that's really hard to use because when you're up there, 5 seconds of silence feels like 30 seconds of silence.
Yeah.
And then once you get a grasp of like how, and the only way to master silence is to like master yourself. I don't know how to say that, but like the way to use silence is to understand within yourself that like that your perception of time and reality, like you said before, your the way to be genuine, or that your perception of your reality around you is your reality around you. So if you judge time based on other people's perception of what's going on, that will be very what's it called? It's like a very anxiety producing thing, right? But now if you come back within yourself and you look through the world with your own eyes, silence is a great tool.
Yeah.
And that brings me to another point which we can also talk about. Sorry, this is like I'm kind of like these are all connected, but they're like loosely connected. Another way to genuinely exemplify confidence in your behavior, in your speech, in your mannerisms, everything you do, and the way you walk around is I forget where I heard this, but basically you have this like you have this lens through which you look at things, and oftentimes it is our own lens is pointed at ourselves, and we think about how other people look through that lens at ourselves. But if you take that lens and you flip it around and you just start observing things, you just start looking at the things around you, and you make observations and comments in your own head about how other things are, that's how you stop being so within your own head. And that's something that inhibits the right word? Inhibits like is something that stops it, right?
Yeah.
That's something that inhibits confidence, is looking too much at yourself, being too self-aware.
I agree.
That stops confidence.
When you're too focused on like
The small
on
things.
your own
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
every action that you do.
Yes. Yes.
And
you
you're-
can't be.
Yeah.
You have to be macro picture, and you have to. Well, I mean, self-awareness is a whole other thing, because self-awareness also drives.
Self-consciousness is the word maybe I was looking for. Those are two different things.
Self-conscious.
Consciousness is a little bit more
Yeah.
relatable. Awareness is actually good because you're aware of your surroundings and yourself and what you're doing, and ultimately that is the epitome of confidence, because you're aware of everything. Like self-awareness is a big term these days. I don't know if you guys have if you saw like that recent Apple keynote at WWDC, or any, like if you've been following like the self-awareness movement. The whole idea, like meditation is at its high right now. People are like adapting that during COVID, the last couple of months, especially with this app called Calm. It's been like advertised everywhere on the App Store.
Is that the one with LeBron James?
Yeah. I think that's the one sponsored by LeBron James. And then there's also even at like Apple's keynote conference, they pulled, like, which millions of people view around the world, they pulled up the app in their demo, and I was just like, interesting.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you
Interesting
saw
that they chose that one.
Yeah, right? So, like, because the whole concept of meditation, right? And Calm is, like, all about that. And
by the way, sorry to cut you. If actually, just keep going, and then I'll mention it.
So self-awareness is the driving factor of, like, mindfulness, which is a huge theme to, like, say, be comfortable in yourself, be comfortable in your own skin, figure out how to organize your thoughts, your life, and ultimately drive up confidence in your reality around you. Right?
And self-awareness can't be achieved. So self-awareness is like, maybe the name to some people is misleading. By the way, we don't need to take a break. Usually we take a break and we pray out there, but I think we're good. If you wanna take a break at any point, let me know. Okay. But I'm good to just keep going for the whole thing.
I don't think we'll go till us, right?
No, we're not gonna go to us. Yeah. But so anyway, self-awareness it might be something that's misleading to some people because of the word self, and actually self-awareness, in my opinion, comes from a mastery of yourself in relation to the things around you, because someone who is aware and what was the word you used?
Mindful.
Mindful. Someone who is mindful of everything does not allow external things, like little external things, to just like cause immediate changes in their own behavior.
Mindfulness is all about like practicing, like discipline around like, you know, so being self-aware, but then also organizing your thoughts, right, in your life, right?
Yeah.
Well, people meditate. Why? Because you meditate on clearing your brain a little bit.
Clearing
Clearing your brain from the external
Right.
and
all the other things that are bothering you.
Yeah.
right, exactly. So you, someone who is self-aware needs to not only delve within themselves, but also in the external world to some extent. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, to an extent.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier, and by the way, there was a point. There was the thing that you wanted to bring up before we started talking about the other thing.
Oh, what were you gonna bring up? Because mine was about how Umair was talking about how that guy, he found his own passion for doing what he likes. I was gonna say, Umair, like what was I gonna say? Crap. Yeah, wait, talk about your point. I'm trying to remember mine.
Okay, so you talked about Roshni rides, and so Roshni rides and Hult prize. I'll just give like a briefing and then you can go into it. Roshni rides was for Muslim students at Rutgers. You know, how about you tell us a little bit about Roshni rides and Hult prize. The Hult prize founder.
I think my thing will relate to this after. I think I remember.
We have the Hult prize. You're good. Don't worry about it. We have the Hult prize founder here. We mentioned that earlier, but we still the viewers don't know what the Hult prize is yet. Go into that.
So the Hult Prize is the world's largest student competition for social good or social entrepreneurship. Basically, it pushes some of the smartest students around the world at university campuses around the world to create business ideas that not only generate profit or are profit driven, but are also social impact driven. Like they're aimed at solving core social issues that the world faces. Specifically aimed with people in poverty, right? So the past couple of challenges have been, you know, how do you tackle the refugee crisis, or how do you create solutions for early childhood education for all the young kids who don't receive education until they're like 10.
How do you
right?
tackle refugees? Sounds messed up.
How do you tackle the refugee crisis?
How do you tackle refugees? The crisis of how to tackle refugees?
Damn, Umair, you got a different mission in
That's
mind.
messed up.
I remember what I said though. I'll follow up after you explain.
Yeah, so that's what the Hult Prize is. It's a very transformative competition. Basically, at the end of every single year, they give the foundation gives $1 million a year to the team of 4 students that came out of this global competition of 50,000 teams around the world, all university campuses.
Are all teams 4 students, by the way?
Yeah, usually 3 or 4 students. That's their criteria. It's like, oh yeah, come up. You know, the benchmark is 3 minimum students,
right.
And it's like, yeah, create or startup, right? Create the idea, pitch it, and see if you can win $1 million to make this idea a reality. And it's so transformative and unique. Like, no one ever thinks about that. How do you tinker a business idea to be solving a social issue that someone faces? When I found out about the Hult Prize back in 2015, it just blew my mind. I was like, this is literally what I want to do, because I had worked for a couple of nonprofits, but then I was also like technically I was studying econ, and I was also very interested in business because, you know, why not? And then, it just blended everything together. Yeah. Like, I'd work with Islamic Relief. I'd work with Helping Hand. I'd work with all these other Islamic organizations. I was involved in my community. And then blending that with, like, what we studied at Rutgers and, like, all the organizations, I was like, first of all, this is untapped at Rutgers. No one's doing a competition like this. No one even thinks about entrepreneurship at Rutgers at all. Like, very barely or very minimally, and very niche, like, small communities. And I was like, let's use this opportunity to I already know how to run this type of program, so let's start it here at Rutgers. Let's see what type of traction it gets. And it's just a cause that I found I was very passionate about it when I found out about it. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. I just want to, like, work for this organization. Yeah. And the way I did that was to start the chapter at Rutgers. Like, that was my way in, right? Like, That's what they did. They
Founding
had
father Umair.
Your way in was just to start it. Just
yeah,
to
just
found
to
it.
start it. Like
Umair's a
and
founding father.
I didn't think about it. I didn't even give him I didn't even give a second thought to it. I just saw what the foundation was all about. I knew what they were trying to do, and me understanding at that level that they were looking. Their foundation was based on campus directors like me around the world running their funnel for innovation. Was like awesome because I could start whatever I wanted to start and become part of that funnel for innovation. Right. So that gave me a big view into the organization, and I just had a very strong mission. I'm like, you know what? Let's just use the resources we have here at Rutgers. No one really knows it, but we have a really diverse school here at Rutgers.
Right.
We have people from all over Jersey, all over the world.
Just to clarify, so like when you just said like, oh, at the moment like no one really knows it. Did it take time to build traction until like did that Roshni rights thing happen the first year?
It happened the second year.
It happened the second year, so it took a little bit.
It took a little bit of time, right? It took 2 years, and I was lucky for it to happen within 2 years is a dream. Yeah. Like, the foundation has only been around for, less than 10 years. And they've only funded like 4 or 5 companies, right? At the time, it was only 4 companies. And so, I started in 2015. That was my early exposure point. And the foundation was actually started by 2 Muslims. It was actually started by one Muslim guy, and then the co-founder, one of the CEO that was later brought on, was also another Egyptian Muslim. The founder was Palestinian Muslim. And so it was like 2 awesome, Arab Muslim guys who were connected to the UN, connected to Bill Clinton, sponsored by the Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation itself.
And sorry, just to clarify, these were the people that started Hult Prize.
These are the Hult Prize, like big wigs.
Big Hult Prize.
Yeah, like these are the guy who started it. His name is Ahmed Ashkar. Like he's like a really, really awesome guy.
Nice.
And he was a Muslim guy who was in business school, who's like part of this school called Hult International Business School.
I see.
And originally he just started this case company. He was like, let's blend Shark Tank with social impact and nonprofit. And then it ended up becoming this what he calls Hult Prize. Ended up getting funded by the $1 billion person that runs the business that was named after the business school. His name is Bertil Hult. He's a Swedish billionaire. And the billionaire saw in a newspaper that he had started this competition in Boston and he was a Hult student. And he called Ahmed over on a phone one day, or it was an email. They talked for like 30 minutes, and then he was like, I want to meet you.
Dude, so, imagine going to a school called Hult and you get an email and it's like
named after
it's like founder. The guy, his name is Hult, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. He's like, hey, I'm Hult. Hey, it's me.
Moved his
Holy crap.
Mr. Hult. Mr. Hult.
I would think it's spam.
Mark as spam.
Just like, hey, it's me. Like, oh, what are you, a counselor? What are you, what are you, a professor? No, it's me. It's Hult.
It's like one of those National Honor Society emails.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
So, yes, the crazy story was, first he started, like, he went to business school because it was like after the economic recession downturn. He worked in finance before. So he had never done anything like this, right? Gets a call. The guy likes him, calls him, pays for. He's like, I want you to come over. So like literally in less than like one day or something, he gets like a plane ticket in his email, takes a plane over to Sweden, and goes to the estate of this billionaire, where they talk about the concept of Hult Prize. And from that day forward, like after that I think it was like a 1 hour, 2 hour meeting. He had lunch with them or something or dinner. Yeah. And, they had like a very personal conversation. He's like an old guy, billionaire. Yeah. He has an estate, huge ass. Yeah. He also came from very humble backgrounds. The interesting story was that he basically had this talk. He's like, I want to create a Shark Tank for social entrepreneurs. And, I want this to be the next way of creating philanthropic ideas that change the world. That was like his pitch. He's a great sales guy. Mr. Hult, after that, was like, okay, let me know how much, let me know how you want to start this. I'll fund you. And
just give me a couple billion. We can work with that.
And there's an article where Ahmed tells us, he's like, the day that I left at his estate, I had the backing of the sub-organization of Hult International Business School. I had the backing of the whole university which has campuses all around the world. They're like a global university. So like in Shanghai, they have office in Shanghai, London, South America, and then Dubai and and Boston, right? So you had the full backing support of his business school, like funds, space, everything. And then he also had money coming in from Education First, which is the big education institution that basically was the main catalyst for Mr. Hult to become a billionaire. It was his main organization called Education First. And so he had the backing of that. And together, those two resources are all you need to start a foundation.
Oh, you can do anything with that.
You need one.
You just need, no, the billionaire through his support, in addition to his funding, he's like, you have the backing of all these organizations, and so he basically travels around the world through their travel network, a huge travel network, and he can go to any office in any location in any city that they're in, set up shop, just walk, either he can set up teams there. He can he can work out of those places, but basically he can go anywhere, and he'll always have an office, and he'll always have a place. It's a very global organization. That's what attracted me to it. I was for so long, I was like, damn, this is such a cool organization to work for, because everyone's around the world. Everyone's working on game-changing ideas that are social impact driven, and it's a cool foundation. It's a cool life.
Yeah.
And he more than half the year he just travels around the world. He just travels. We're talking thousands of trips to just all these countries, talking at forums and advocating for Hult Prize. That became a really long story, but short story short, really interesting foundation, really interesting concept of changing the world and using youth to do it. Okay. I started the chapter at Rutgers in 2015. I was like, how can we
changing the world and using youth to do it?
Yeah.
Sounds like something else I've heard.
What else?
Where did we get that from?
I was making a Hitler Youth joke.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
But yeah, okay, that came out. The inspirational story for anyone listening, right?
You're going to change the world.
Sorry. Hult Prize.
I mean, dude, it's funny because now Ahmed Ashkar, the founder, he's like, when I started this, I didn't know it was going to be a movement, and now they're a huge movement.
Yeah.
They're so many students competing in it. He's actually using this as a pivoting point for a lot of Middle Eastern universities. He has a huge platform in Lebanon, basically
My
just
boys in Lebanon. Sorry.
basically, he's just trying to become a good trying to be the guiding factor for good, right? We hear so many negative things. And him being a Palestinian, he's like, look, I want to uplift these people, right?
Yeah.
And he's using Hult Prize to do it, which is a really unique way, just in one capacity. Not that it's singling out just Arab people, but it is a truly global platform that is, partnered with the UN, partnered with Clinton's name.
It's interesting though, because
I've actually met Clinton, by the way. Yeah, I have a picture with him on Facebook. I don't know if you guys.
No. Clinton met you. Clinton met you.
No, I shook his hand. That's all we did. He had a whole staff and entourage around him. But
American name, any celebrity, would be like, okay.
Wait, can you get him on the podcast?
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah. Bill Clinton's there's just a bunch of people. He's like, I don't have time. He's like,
dude,
wait a second, is that Umair Masood?
He starts running out.
And Umair's like, wait, hold on.
Dude, Umair's in the urinal and he senses his presence. Dude, it's a single stall urinal. He's like, open. He starts banging on the door. They get a secret service to break down the door.
Wait, so do you work with the Clinton Foundation a lot, or are you just acquaintances?
They used to be the big partners of Hult Prize. So I actually went back when I first started Hult Prize. They were still partners here at Rutgers when I first started it. They were still it was known as the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton family's major foundation, and they were one of the hosts of Hult Prize. So the major Hult Prize event that would happen, the competition that would happen globally, like would be like the final round where like 5 or 6 teams would compete for that $1 million of funding. The $1 million of funding would be awarded by Bill Clinton himself. That's where Roshni Rides is actually awarded.
Bill Clinton is in
they have that all 4 Muslims have that famous picture of Clinton, right?
It's on the business
he still
school.
does it. He comes every single year, and he loves the Hult Prize, and he just likes talking and being the main guy around it. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, the short story was in 2015, I actually got to go to the Clinton Foundation and Global Initiative that they had in New York. And I was only a sophomore at Rutgers, and they had some of the, like, I was surrounded by like crazy like diplomats. It was during UN week, so everyone from global, everyone from General Assembly was there. All the major presidents and philanthropic foundations from all over the world, Africa, and like I was just a volunteer, but like being surrounded by all those interesting people was mind blowing to me. I was like, I'm only 20, like not even yet, and I'm in this global event surrounded by
the
so many
Clinton
interesting
Global
people.
Initiative does like young talent. Sorry.
We're not gonna get on the podcast.
Wait, what?
We can't badmouth.
No, I'm not. Hey, Clinton likes young talent. Who doesn't like young talent? Sorry,
Here's what I wanted to build on earlier. You know how you're like doing all this cool stuff. This is what we're talking about. Like the guy you're talking about, pharmacy. Here's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Like people doing stuff they're passionate about. They're going out and venturing. Like you see people in. I'm not putting any shade on people who do medicine. Like if you're passionate about it, do it.
Yeah.
But I see like people like doing 4 years of undergrad to apply nothing. Like you want to be doing something that you want. You want to be like applying stuff that you learn. And I know you wanted to be in the business school, right?
Yeah.
But now you found something you like even better, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like
I mean, I never got into. I was never good enough for business school, but I learned everything about business on my own.
Everything like worked out, right?
Yeah. Everything worked out.
Like you're on a path now that you probably would have liked better than any major in business school, right?
And
100%, I agree.
Yeah.
And when you look at people within the Rutgers community who have really exemplified this,
doing what you want, doing something you're passionate about. Sometimes a lot of the time, the example uses these Roshni Rides kids.
Yeah.
So, like, do you want to explain?
Yeah. So they created their 4 Muslim students here at Rutgers at the time. One I actually went to high school with. His name was Hassan Asmani. And it's funny because I knew all these guys, and we were in MSA event. We did some MSA events together. It's funny because four of the Roshni Rides, people were on MSA ladders. Shout out to Ali Tahir and shout out to ladders.
I have a ladders somewhere on here.
Which was our career development function of Muslim Student Association at Rutgers, and ultimately. All 4 Roshni Rides, I remember it because I was on a ladders committee my freshman and sophomore year, and all 4 of them were on that committee. So we all did ladders together, which is really interesting. And so I knew about them. They're always very career driven. I think we always had that in common. I started Hult Prize on the side, not expecting MSA to get involved, although half the time that I would hang out with the people would be in MSA, and like Hult Prize would kind of just go over their head a little bit, and I would be known as that annoying kid in Kilmer, just talking about like this crazy organization I work with, and the word got across, but. I do know that like it was over the head for some people, and like that was like a social skill that I've learned over the years of like how to gauge people's interests, and I still make that mistake sometimes when I get overly passionate about something. But I realized that not many people that I knew in that network had that much exposure. Like they were so set in their tracks. They were so set on like what they needed to accomplish or what they had
they were set on one goal.
That view set up, right? They didn't have like the view set I did. Right. I had a very like multidisciplinary view coming into college from my exposure from my high school.
All the ladies,
from my parents.
very
multidisciplinary. Right? And that's when I started realizing I'm like, well, Hult Prize could be a beacon for that. Right. So I would even go to all the pre-med students and be like, look, I know you're studying for Orgo right now, but just like create a team. Because, like, I need a team to be created, and then...
They'll like, get the hell out!
They'll be like, but, it was interesting because I did get to some med school students, and they weren't from MSA. I actually got people who were at NJMS who participated in my first year competition, right? And so it was kind of like an interesting dynamic where like, yeah, maybe, you know, some of those people that I knew in my own network, they like totally didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also interesting to see that dynamic that like there's a whole team, there's 2 teams from Rutgers Medical School that participated in my first year competition.
Right.
And they're med school
Yeah,
students
that's crazy.
that came and pitched 2 ideas.
Yeah.
And to me, what did that represent? And they were not, and it's sad to say they were non-Muslims. They're not part of my network, right? They had literally just heard about my competition through email blasts and through my general marketing that I was doing on campus.
But that's also really impressive.
Yeah, to get
Right?
some med schools.
To get med. I remember there's one guy
that's
that,
like not the first group you'd expect to enter the competition.
and they didn't. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't dedicate that much time to it, but like they came out with like
Yeah.
some really interesting ideas and whatever time that they had.
Yeah.
And just to have that,
Yeah.
that diversity of students that came
Yeah.
and participated in,
Big
in
thing.
that first competition I ran, I was just like, look, I'm glad that I was able to provide value, right?
Yeah.
The whole concept of what you just said right there is understanding what value you want to create for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not working on creating value for yourself every single day, then what are you working on?
Yeah.
Right?
Are you
And-
talking about the thing that he said about your being passion driven?
Yeah,
in your,
being passion driven and like figuring things out, right?
Yeah.
Where people are kind of lost and like they're following like
Yeah.
whatever they're following.
Yeah. Like I see some people doing pre-med, they're like exploring coding. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean
what you
that's
like-
good.
It's
They're exploring
great,
it.
But
Yeah.
it's like, if you're gonna go to med school, like,
Yeah, exactly.
how are you gonna expand on that skill set once you get there?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I feel like when you're exploring other venues and when you have like, say I'm in business school, like, I can explore so many other options
Yeah.
since I have so much more free time.
Yeah,
Like, there's so many
I
projects I could work on.
think
I feel
for
like sometimes people like close off like other areas, like you were saying.
yes,
Like, they're so
closing
set on
off is
what-
bad.
yeah.
Closing off is bad. The moment you start exploring new things, that is again multidisciplinary, right?
Yeah.
That is always going to help you.
Yeah.
That is always going to help you. Why? Because it's going to expose you to, again, your critical thinking factor.
Yeah.
Like, how do you look at a particular problem, break down that problem,
Mm-hmm.
and solve it? Right. At the end of the day, that is what we do in interviews. That is what we do at work generally.
You do
In
in
any
life.
work function,
Yeah.
that's what you do in life, and that's also what you do. You know, like going back to like what we do as students. That's what we do as students every day. And then the interesting comparison I wanted to make is that like engineers have this way of like, oh yeah, we know how to break down problems because we work on like really hard
yeah,
math
we do.
problems or structures, but like everyone is an engineer of their own
Yeah.
life.
Nah.
Right?
That's
That's
us.
an Umair Masood quote.
That's us.
Like at the end of the day, so that function of critically thinking about exploring and again
Yeah.
developing and broadening your view is very important.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I did.
Yeah.
Let me just say, I'm about to finish my 4th year just to call myself a freaking engineer, all right? So I appreciate the sentiment, but I spent 4 years doing this, so you can't call yourself an engineer.
I was
can.
a former engineer.
Well, you can't call yourself a freaking
I
engineer.
came in as an engineering student, bro.
Doesn't matter for nothing.
I'm entitled to some.
That
part of
doesn't matter for nothing.
Yeah, you gotta finish it.
Man, shut up, Zarir, before I cut your salary,
Yeah.
bro.
Wait, actually, a quick
Fine.
question: Do you like doing anything with hardware these days?
Actually, I love learning about. People ask me why the hell, like, because I'm
Computer
going into
engineering.
software engineering.
Yeah, exactly.
And well, as an electrical and computer engineer, you learn a lot about software.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then
And
also
so-
hardware.
And also hardware. So the thing is, I love learning about hardware, and I love the math that goes into it. I'm a big
Good.
math guy, and I love math. And when you do electrical engineering and hardware engineering, especially in the later classes, it's a lot more math heavy.
Yeah.
And so I love that. And that people ask me, why didn't you just come in as a CS student, or why don't you switch to applied sciences? It's because I love that stuff, and I'm still learning software engineering. And I think what's more important to learn about when you want to go into software engineering is not necessarily methodologies of coding first. I think that can come second. I think the first thing is strong foundation in analytical skills and math, which you'll get better from the engineering department.
Yeah, which is what I'm trying to work on right now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
So like what kind of stuff are you trying to work on right now?
Like right now, I was just telling Ahmed I'm trying to learn Python and
Oh, okay.
trying to learn a
okay.
little bit of scripting and
Right.
I'm trying to learn how to organize very interesting, like very robust data sets.
Right.
And why am I learning that? I'm about to I'm technically working right now, but the reason why I'm learning that is because I see the trends of what's important in business, and this is where you can study anything in
Yeah.
college
Mm-hmm.
and be successful in life or be
Right.
successful in your career, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to that critical thinking and solving those problems.
Mhm.
For example, Arshad, like you telling me that you love math,
Mm-hmm.
I already know that you're a very analytical person,
Mm-hmm.
and that skill set will drive value in any role that you do in your
Right. Right.
like you can become I see you actually become a very successful entrepreneur or very successful product manager, right? Or maybe even like switching over to the business side and
Right.
using that decision framework and your confidence
Right.
to heavily influence the people around you,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what business is,
Right.
right? That whole key of influence and like going back to confidence
Yeah.
again, right? That is one of the most important like traits that leaders have.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone has those traits. So the moment you expose yourself early on to those traits and start building them,
Mm-hmm.
like you are doing right now, that is going to give you edge into like your future roles that you jump into,
Right.
Or give you flexibility in what you could
Yeah.
do with that role, or apply creativity and innovation
Yeah.
to particular problems.
They say that a lot of big wigs in a lot of companies, a lot of CEOs are actually not. You might expect them to be like business majors. A lot of time they were business majors in school,
Yeah.
but a lot of times they're math majors,
Yeah.
physics majors, engineers, because these are people who are equipped with a certain mindset. And now when you pair, now okay, I'm gonna be real honest. When you go to the engineering school, there's a lot of awkward freaking kids. There's a lot of awkward kids that don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to put together a sentence barely. They they're sweaty freaking, like they barely take showers. But when you put together like people who do some of these majors, and I'm not like, I don't think I'm like a smart person, like I'm like going through these things, but when you find someone who's like really really smart and with their analytical skills, and you put together that with social skills, is when you end up finding people like that are fit to be CEOs and
Yeah.
and whatever.
That's it. That is the formula. Well, I mean, they have to make the right decisions. They have to learn through
Of
those
course.
decisions.
There's a degree
But,
of luck too.
Yeah, degree of luck as well. But you're right. Like I talk to my dad about this all the time. He's also an entrepreneur, and he's also one of my like biggest inspirations. And he when I was like 4 years old, he started his own like .com company, tech
Wow.
company. Which has like an interesting story arc, by the way,
Mm.
which feeds a lot into like my personality.
Mhm. Do you want to go into that? It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I could go into like my dad, started a huge e-commerce company back in one of the early eBays of the time, back in
Mhm.
like '99.
Wow.
I was 4 years old. We had moved to New Jersey. I was born in Ohio, in the Midwest. And my dad basically ran a company with a lot of his friends from India that came here to the
Mhm.
U.S., which was not necessarily a bright move.
Mhm.
And but he started a company that rivaled eBay, that rivaled at the time a bunch of other e-commerce companies,
Mhm.
which used to sell technology products online for businesses, like computers, hardware, whatever you can name. All at the touch of a button.
Mm-hmm.
And they're competing against companies like eBay. And he learned a lot through that process, but he never surrounded himself with, with very, like, all of them were amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
All of them had no distinguished experience.
Yeah.
Education was, they had their master's degree. Some of them are technical, some of them
Mhm.
weren't. But even besides their education, they just didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
And I think when my dad tells me that now, like after having that failure and then developing a career on the corporate side, himself, he tells me, he's like, see who you develop ideas with, and always surround yourself by smarter people,
Mhm.
right? And then that goes back to like what I said in the beginning of this podcast, was that you have to keep surrounding yourself by people you're learning from, because ultimately you will grow within that learning curve, right?
Absolutely.
And so, he worked out. I used to see, he used to work weekends. I barely used to see him. I was like a little kid.
Mhm.
And all I remember was I would be hanging out in the office, and a lot of his colleagues would love me because I would be the kid around in the office, making copies, playing around.
Just a quick question: when your dad, so you said like they had similar education backgrounds. Was it like computer science type stuff?
Yeah,
or-
my dad had a master's in electrical engineering. In ECE. Even though he doesn't classify him as an engineer, it's funny because he tells everyone that he's like, I studied it, but like I hated it. And then also,
It's a lot of people.
it's a lot of people, right? And like he always had the creative function, so he'd always be interested in the business and the finance and the math and the numbers behind it. And that's why I tell you, like, math and numbers is like all you need to know in life. In addition to like creativity, but I just like having that exposure point when I was young drove a lot of what I've learned throughout the years, right? If I didn't have that exposure point, I would have obviously like some other exposure points along the way that I opened my eye to, but like I think remembering that is what drove all this entrepreneurship stuff that I did on the side, right? I think it's the same for a couple of the Roshni Rights founders as well, right? Like, I connected with one of the members on the team. Her father was, started also a couple of technology businesses too. If you look at one of the other members on the team, his family has a huge background in business in Pakistan, right? And if you look at, a couple of the other team members as well, they're just like really like hard workers, and they learned a lot through their time at Rutgers and how they defined their career and what they put their time towards. Right. So if you look at this Roshni Rights team, going back to Roshni Rights, like they were made to be like, we were all very similar. I started Hult Prize. I was running the competition, but it was so interesting to see how like Allah works in like weird ways, right? Where like these 4 people were so good in doing competitions where they just like took the leap of faith to believe in and they knew about Hult Prize through me. So like they obviously heard about it through Facebook and like, I don't know if they weren't like that close to me. I was definitely close to like 1 or 2 people, but it wasn't a thing that came up like, oh, you should. So it was definitely one of those social media effects or like one of those conversations that I had with them. And they were like, yeah, we decided to make a team. And I was like, I know you guys are going to do well, so let me know if you guys need any help. But I remember that year being so busy. That fall that I ran Hult Prize on campus, I was like doing a co-op, just taking like credits, like 12 to 16 credits. I don't know how much.
So we've talked about Roshni Rides a lot, and a lot of people in the community know what it is, but just to...
Is this still going?
Yeah, so Roshni Rides is a ride-sharing transportation technology company in Karachi, in Pakistan. They were started by 4 Rutgers students, and really they wanted to reinvent the way that niche transportation access was provided to females in Karachi. But they've also expanded their business a little bit, and they're changing around.
And so just to expand on that a little bit. So why specifically females?
I think they realized one of the biggest problem statements was that that they looked at was that women in certain communities are not getting the access to the right jobs and resources for their livelihood, because they're discriminated with in a society like Karachi, like Pakistan.
Right.
Okay. And
just to clarify, sometimes when I'm asking questions, it's just to clarify for the viewers. I know a lot of
this stuff,
a bit about Roshni Rides myself. But.
Yeah, so I think they expanded on that. It's not like they're exclusive to women, but they're marketing towards women. They're the last time I spoke to Munib was almost like 8 months to a year ago. So their business was doing well. They were active. Now COVID has hit. It has hit them a little bit, and I'm sure they're having difficulties in figuring out next steps.
Yeah. Still running though.
I think it's running in the background. They might be taking a break right now because right now a lot of transportation is stunted. And they were operating on a very lean company, so in order to have that runway and still be around is very hard. So I think they've actually stopped the brakes. They have they're running 1 or 2 people are probably running it in the background in Pakistan, and until COVID comes back, COVID kind of dies down a little bit and everything returns back to normal. They'll go back to Pakistan and re kind of start their business.
Zarir, is this still recording, by the way?
Yeah.
And that too?
That's the good thing about like venturing out. Like now they have this big thing on their resume.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter if you're like.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a strategic risk
Yeah,
that you had to
exactly,
take. It's
yeah.
you only get certain opportunities like that in your life.
Yeah.
One of them could have easily dropped out for like a very
Exactly.
cushy job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when do you have the opportunity to
Yeah.
have $1 million, which
Yeah.
is like 60 million PK? Oh, I don't know how much the inflation rate in Pakistan is,
Yeah.
but that's approximately 60 million Karachi rupees, right? Pakistani rupees, PKRs, which is a lot of runway for a business,
Yeah.
right? That's run by 4 people.
And $1 million here is a lot different than, and even considering the inflation, the standard of money usage in Pakistan is also different. Like it's not just I don't know how to say what I'm saying right now. Do you kind of get it?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
I
like
get
it's not like when you buy, like when you get a haircut here, it's $20. When you get a haircut in
Your haircuts
Pakistan,
here
It's
are
like 50 cents.
it's not like the equivalent of $20 in
Yeah.
their currency. It's the equivalent of like 50 cents in our currency. So
Yeah.
60 million units of 60 million rupees is not the equivalent of $1 million here. It's the equivalent of a lot more than $1
I
million.
haven't had a
Yeah.
$20 haircut in a while though. It costs a lot.
I mean, people and in all countries, people in Pakistan also have money too. So
Yeah.
when you try to tap into that network, it's also interesting. But the cool thing about it was that I had like when I started Hult Prize at Rutgers, I had a unique vision. I was like, and it's very important to think about how you set vision, how you set missions. And how you set milestones to achieve those vision and mission combined, right? When you think, like, no one really thinks of doing that, but that is the formula for success. When you start any type of movement, any type of organization, you need to be driven on why you're doing it every single day, and you need to be driven on making sure you're accomplishing your vision.
You know, that's a really interesting thing. Right. And this, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
This was something that Ahmed was bringing up before, is that another thing is that, having a lot of passion within the thing that you're doing. So just to go off what you were saying, there's this culture now of doing a drop shipping business.
It's easy to do a drop shipping company these days.
There's this culture of just like you go online, you see like, oh, like like you can do this, you can do this,
YouTube
really
channel.
Or like things that are just these generic like we do it well. That's different.
Our reason was different before.
Yeah.
That was a different purpose.
Yeah, like we kind of just want to have fun, but a lot of people are like, oh, like these are quick, easy ways to make money, and they're like, oh, let me start a drop shipping business selling whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, like I've been attracted by these ideas that are like, oh, just sell whatever works. But the thing is, you have got to know the ins and outs, and you have to have a passion about that thing.
Yes.
I hate
100%.
Gary Vee is a really smart guy, but I hate quoting him because that's like it's like a meme. Like, oh, you watch Gary Vee too?
I'm a Gary Vee fan.
Yeah, he's cool.
I have friends I had a friend, my friend Albie from Rutgers, work with him.
Really?
Yeah, he worked for VaynerMedia. And it was really interesting. Sorry to interrupt, but crazy way that I got it. He went to a conference in Toronto. In front of a sea of people, he lined up for Q&A. Yeah, he's from Rutgers Middle School. Yeah, that was him.
Was he the one that asked for an internship?
Yeah, and he asked a really interesting question, and then that led to him asking right away, would you be able to hire me as an intern this summer? And then Gary Vee was like, yeah, sure.
Oh, I saw the other one where someone was like, can you hire me? And he was like, get the hell out of here.
He did that. But he did it in a way where like he asked a very interesting question, so it established his validity and his credibility. Absolutely. And then he followed up with, so can I? And then that is the famous viral moment on YouTube where he gets an internship at VaynerMedia.
That's sick,
actually. Yeah, bro. Umair's connected everywhere.
Yeah, bro.
He's one of my close friends, and I talk to him all the time.
Did you ever talk to Gary Vee?
I was somewhere else at the time, but he had a meeting set up with Gary Vee here in Jersey. For like a book talk that he was doing, and he actually invited all my other friends, and I was like, I think I was in Malaysia at that time, and then all the other guys we got to actually shake hands with him and meet him and play pool with him and sign the book with him. And I was like,
just give him a bunch of water. I'll be waiting in the bathroom. She's like, oh, Gary, I didn't know you were gonna be here. So anyways, I was talking about Gary Vee. So what? Again, like he's a great guy. He's a really smart dude. Obviously, I just hate quoting him because there's like this culture around like,
Gary Vee.
oh, dude, like I saw this thing on Gary Vee recently where like, oh, dude, I learned this on Gary Vee.
It sounds like Tarek.
Yeah. A little bit, right? So Gary Vee, one of the things he says, which is very accurate, is that you can't just pick up a freaking business about anything and just do it and succeed. You need to know the ins and outs, and you need to have that why, the passion.
The how, what, why, and the where and when and all the other stuff.
Exactly, and people think that you can. People will see a business opportunity, like sometimes they'll be like, like the price of like mugs are big in the market right now. Let me sell mugs. Yeah. What the hell you know about mugs?
Flashback to episode 1.
Yeah. The mug guy. The mug plug. The plug of mugs?
Plug of mugs.
The plug of mugs. I don't know if that was from the first episode. But
That's kind of cringe.
what?
He said the mug thing.
The mug thing. Shut up, you freaking communist! Anyways, we're talking about capitalistic principles here, okay? Buying and selling. Buying and selling. You know what that is? Companies, entrepreneurship. You got that in Soviet Russia? Didn't think so. Anyways, so
Was I supposed to be there in Soviet Russia?
Zarir swam to get to America.
So, anyways, what he suggests is, well, when he started off, I'm sure you know his story. He said it a million times. Oh, I started off in a liquor store. Well, the thing is, he knew the freaking ins and outs of liquor store. He did his work. He got drunk on weekends. He was like, this tastes good, this don't taste good.
He has a wine company, right?
Well, he did. No.
Yeah,
he started
when he started.
He started at his dad's liquor store, and now he
started selling wines online.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what he did.
And so there's this element of, if you're trying to start a business.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a hat guy. I like hats. I got a different hat on every episode. For anyone who's been watching, I'm sure you've noticed I've had a different hat on every episode.
That's where our budget goes.
I'm a freaking hat guy, right?
That's where Zarir's salary goes.
Zarir doesn't need a salary. He's a freaking communist.
For the good of the people.
we protect Zarir from the police. So that's enough compensation.
But yeah, so like if you like hats, get into that business. Even if it doesn't seem lucrative, you know the freaking ins and outs. You can make it lucrative.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like dropship, all these other businesses, right? Like, people need to figure out that you need to like set a like. Someone was telling me about that recently. They're like, oh yeah, I want to start dropship. I'm like, what are you gonna start it in?
Yeah.
And ultimately, e-commerce right now is all about creating products that appeal to your audience. Same thing as this podcast, right? It's all about how do you tap into different customer segments. And when you start a dropshipping company, you need to create a product that you have confidence over and that aligns with who you're selling it to. Yeah. That's the only way you're going to be successful. You can't be random in it. You have to be very, very focused. Right. And that's where like the niche thing is. Yeah. But when you're focused, those are dropshipping businesses that do really well. Like, for example, the guy who made money off of the fidget spinners when they went off. Right? Made millions of dollars off of dropshipping fidget spinners at that time. Why? Because his niche was, well, he does a bunch of toy companies, but at that time, he got into the fidget spinner space at the right time. Yeah. And for some reason, his brand was on every single Facebook ad that he paid for, and he was able to translate that over into direct sales.
And he knew, and the thing is, he didn't just randomly, like you said, he was in the toy industry before, so him getting into the fidget spinner thing and doing really well was by no accident.
Yeah, exactly.
He was part of the toy industry, so how. Like, sure, like, at the end of the day, you could be like, at the end, like, if you know how to sell things, you can just sell fidget spinners. No, when you're selling toys, you know how to package toys so that it's appealing.
Yeah.
You know how to, be a good customer service person to people who are looking at toys, which is a whole thing on its own.
Yeah.
You know these things, and it's by no accident that he just picked up fidget. I'm sure if someone was like, oh, fidget spinners are getting really big. They have no experience in this, no experience in the toy industry. They're like, let me get on this. I'm sure they would not have had as much success as this guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
For
So so that vision setting and like mission setting is very important.
Yeah. And Ahmed and I had our own business ventures where
flashback.
flashback. So basically we were just selling some freaking stupid things. Okay, we were selling.
By the way, if anyone wants some everyday planners or some Firestones.
Yeah. So
Firestones.
What are they called? Firestones? We kept calling them
It
Firestones.
was Firestones.
It's just these little freaking like blocks that you like throw into a fireplace.
If you guys want them, we can.
You know what? I've never owned a fireplace.
Do they accelerate the fire?
I don't know.
Just, you can buy them to find
So
out.
we don't know a damn thing about them.
Dude, all we knew was check the Amazon price.
Yeah.
It looks good.
We don't know a goddamn
Yo,
thing
I'm not gonna lie,
about
that's
them.
freaking soul
We know their price. We know what we bought them for, and we know what we were planning on selling them for.
That's about it.
Dude, that was a soul sucking process in doing that stuff.
It was.
Yeah. Takes effort, man. That's how you run your
That's
job.
why you need passion, bro.
Yeah, you need passion. You need
Zarir,
energy.
could you check what time we're at right now?
2:13.
2:13. Okay, so actually, let's
I think
Start
the
wrapping up.
well, so we want to talk about UFC 252 real quick. 210.
man, shut the freaking communist. You guys got UFC. You guys got UFC in Soviet Russia?
Dude, we fight people whenever we feel like it.
Actually, they had a.
Dude, you got freaking Khabib. How do you not like UFC, bro? He's from Russia.
Yeah, but Khabib's not a communist.
No, but he's from his country. you don't support people from your country, sir.
So
No words.
well, they had the guy that fought Rocky, and he was from Soviet Russia.
Yeah.
So I guess fighting is.
So he must have hated Rocky.
Yeah. How do you feel about that movie?
Never watched
It's
it.
banned in Russia.
You never watched Rocky?
Never watched it because the freaking
Rocky's
American
so
wins.
good, man.
I watched a lot of movies.
Dude,
with
he's not
movies
allowed to
I've
watch it
seen
in his
on
country. It's
classics.
blocked.
You know, I'm gonna put a freaking American flag up here to trigger you.
Do it.
All right. Anyways.
You see like claw marks on it.
All right. So UFC 252, we had quite an interesting.
We had an interesting card. Some interesting things
card.
happening in it.
All right, so before Ahmed and I talk about it,
Umair watched it last night. Did you? Which fights did you catch?
I don't think I watched it last night.
Uh,
I just read. I saw highlights.
Okay. Oh, you saw highlights.
I saw a
Perfect.
couple
That's
highlights.
fine. That's fine. You saw
Yeah.
highlights. As someone who's a non-UFC fan, I won't even give you any guiding questions. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean it's a brutal sport. I've seen I've seen other fights of UFC where like they're jumping on each other, they're grappling each other. I don't know if you saw that BuzzFeed video of one of the BuzzFeed guys that
The
trained.
Try Guys.
No, not the Try Guys. It was Arya. I don't know if you know Arya from BuzzFeed guys. Shout out to BuzzFeed followers.
Is he the gay dude?
No,
They're
he's
all
the
gay dudes.
he's the chill Asian guy.
I haven't seen.
That
Oh, the guy that did the 30-day transformation.
yes,
you know.
the 30-day
I
transformation.
I didn't watch it. Hey, I don't watch
So,
BuzzFeed.
so he, I just saw that video on YouTube and I watched it. And he basically trained. He trained like 3 months for a couple weeks. I don't know if it was like 15-week challenge or like a couple months for to be a UFC fight. And he literally trained really hard. I just wanted to watch that video because like
To
he's
be
a
in an
normal-
MMA fight?
Yeah, to be in. He wanted to do an MMA fight. So he trained to do an MMA fight, dude.
Wow.
And like he worked out for like he started a workout regimen. He started practicing with like MMA trainers.
Yeah.
He actually got knocked out in less than he didn't get knocked out, but in less than a minute, he was put down by his MMA opponent. And he was going easy on him. And that just goes to show, even if you train for like 3 months as a normal person, you are not ready.
yeah, for
UFC fighters are
Like-
like top of
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah.
They are like, you need to have mental toughness.
sure.
What appeals to you about like fighting in the UFC? Like what parts of it? Like the striking. Like what was the most interesting thing?
I think the cool thing about UFC is that you're in a ring,
Right.
and it's different from like any other ring.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then also, it's just raw, right? Like I think people like it because it's mixed martial arts, so
Yeah.
it's like anything can happen at one
Right.
point.
Yeah. It just.
It's
like-
it's a use of your whole skill set.
Yeah.
Right, it's a use of your whole skill set, which is hard to gauge when you're watching because usually when you're watching boxing, it's like bam, bam, bam,
Yeah.
round over,
Right.
and then you
Yeah.
know who won because you could tell. With UFC, anything can happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like he can like twist you, go on your back, like
Right.
usually they grapple each other a lot, which
Right.
is like it's kind of weird because you're watching two guys grapple each other all the time.
I kind of like that.
But that's the thing for us who aren't as more casual fans. Like we've done
Yeah, it's
jiu-jitsu
not-
and stuff. So for us, it's like
Did you guys
Like-
wrestle in high school?
I
actually-
trained jujitsu. I
actually
did
wish-
wrestle.
Oh,
I really
right.
wish I
So
wrestled.
you get okay. So you guys, and then you did what?
I actually wish I did, but I didn't.
Yeah, I really wish I wrestled.
Did you play sports in high school?
I did. I didn't do any sports in high school.
Okay.
I used to be a huge
I thought you
basketball
wrestled
fan.
for some reason. I don't know.
Well,
I learned wrestling moves in high school,
Oh, okay.
but that was
Kabaddi at
So-
YM.
nah.
so just to stay a little focused on UFC 252. What were your thoughts on UFC 252? Like
Yeah.
this is the one that just happened.
I didn't see much of it to be honest, but
Mhm.
I think like I heard there was like a jab in the eye, so like
Oh,
both people
poke in the
jab-
eye.
Yeah, both people poked
On
each
both
other in the
sides,
eye,
yeah.
which is pretty crazy.
Ahmed swears that DC does intentional eye pokes. That is a
That he doesn't.
big
that
that he does
Is it
intentional
wrong
eye
to
pokes.
do eye pokes?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
and that's
you
also a
can-
big accusation that you're making there. By the
I
way,
legit.
that's a serious accusation.
Yes, because dude,
it's
it's a
okay.
popular opinion, and I believe it's true. Because in
No,
the second fight,
bro.
dude, there's a
Okay, then
replay.
Stipe. Then did you see freaking Stipe's eye poke?
All right, that was intentional.
It was intentional.
Well, it
It
looked
was,
like
you
it
said?
was.
Bro, intentional eye pokes is a big accusation. Okay.
Well, all right, look for DC's eye poke in the second fight, right? He was coming to punch the other guy, and his hand was coming like this.
Things.
So when you're doing a punch, you don't release your hand.
Hey man.
coming closer.
Yeah, but dude, these are you have to understand. These are dudes that like
All
DC is someone. We're gonna talk about this real quick because you keep saying that, and I want people to know that I think he's joking a little bit.
Me?
But at the same time, I can't tell. That's a
What?
serious
I'm
freaking
being
accusation.
serious. I'm not joking. I legit think he intentionally eye poked him in the second fight.
Dude, that's a big freaking accusation.
All right, cause look, his hands went like look, Zarir.
I think he
I
meant
don't
to.
know.
Your hands are
It's-
going like
Can you,
this.
Yeah, but it's
can you
hard-
punch the cheek?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
punch. You can't eye
Well,
poke.
dude,
Okay.
yeah, but the thing is, you weren't there in the fight. You were like, you can see it.
Bro,
I
the instant replay
Wait,
is
so you can
clear
punch
as day.
the eye but not poke them?
You can punch
it's
anywhere
not,
in the face.
dude. It's not
you just
like,
can't poke someone in the eye.
bro.
Can't
These,
just do this.
Yeah, you can't be holding
do
your
it.
fingers out. You
Oh,
can have a
okay.
closed fist.
dude.
Okay, got it.
I think you're literally being like, oh, his fingers
Alright,
went
tell
out,
me-
so therefore it's proof
alright,
that.
tell me why you think it wasn't intentional.
Okay.
What's the reason?
All right. Well, okay. Let's just talk about UFC 252, and then we'll go back to this.
No,
You,
continue
you
this.
just make a statement.
All right, dude. Here's my statement, and I said this last time. DC is someone, and I'm speaking
Alright,
not
wait.
about the fight. Hold up.
It doesn't make sense to bring in this guy. Could be president of the United
No,
States.
this-
He's trying to win a
Dude,
championship.
this
fight.
freaking makes sense. This is someone who is not just some idiot who like just got into UFC. DC is one of the freaking faces of the UFC, and an intentional eye poke is a big
That's
accusation.
Cormier, right, by the way?
Thinking.
What?
Yeah.
Cormier.
Yeah,
Cormier.
Cormier. Yeah.
Daniel Cormier. He's one of the faces of the UFC. An intentional eye poke is a big accusation because that is freaking cheating.
I'll stand
and
by
he
that
didn't need
accusation.
to. And he didn't need to. Why would he intentionally eye poke?
That's what I'm asking because all right. Here's what I'll say. I think that I
Dude,
think
and
this
also-
Thursday, agree to disagree.
The eye poke was what? The eye poke was clear. Yeah, he freaking poked him in the eye. Yes.
I thought it was clear that was intentional.
Okay,
that's
well-
what I thought from the replay I sent you.
Look,
Anyone-
man. I'm not gonna argue about. I don't think
That-
this
that-
gets us. I don't think we're
that's what I'm
getting
saying.
anywhere. I think
agree,
we're gonna.
agree to disagree.
Yeah. I think you're wrong about that. But anyway,
Peaceful,
agree to
peaceful.
anyways,
Consensus.
He has
So-
his opinion. I have mine.
so UFC 252, an
you
observation
know, me
we
and
made.
Thari were making fun of him for this yesterday. I started
Look,
doing freaking crunches.
I don't think.
All
What?
right. Moving on
UFC
from that.
252. What was the observation we made last night?
Dude, freaking people were walking out dancing. it didn't even look like they're coming to fight. They were like in the
Yeah.
music, like.
And those people,
Dude, they got
they all
freaking
freaking low.
smashed.
They got freaking smashed. Dude, this one dude, who was it?
Yeah, dude.
Oh my God, Burns, dude. Burns
The
came
way this
out.
guy walked
The
out.
Brazilian dude, he came out and he's like,
This was his
freaking
walkout,
dancing.
dude.
He like literally does
He-
not
he was
freaking care.
in some other zone.
Dude, we're like he like missed weight by like 3 pounds. Dude, this dude is just like they're like instructing him. They're like sir, he's like he's there. They're like sir, could you please take off your pants? He's like like sir, we're just trying to do our job. Could you please remove your clothes? He's like, yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
this,
He's like not just like doesn't
this
care.
guy was not aware that he was gonna be pregnant.
and he missed weight by like 3 pounds.
This man comes.
What happens if you miss weight? You can't qualify.
Well,
you get your fight purse taken away apart like 20% or something.
20%.
Oh
yeah.
shit! Okay.
And I'm
but you
pretty
still
sure-
fight.
Yeah,
you still fight.
I'm pretty sure the other person can actually choose to not fight.
Yeah.
But so basically,
Was he down or up?
he was up by 3 pounds. He was supposed to cut 3 more pounds.
Yeah.
Heavyweight or lightweight?
This was featherweight.
This
This
was
was 145.
Okay. Got
And
it.
he's
He was
a-
149.
They're like,
How do you get that lean, by the way, guys?
It's cutting water weight.
We'll talk about-
having a straight.
Oh,
diet.
that's the YouTube video I saw. I saw the YouTube video of that famous guy who basically he goes through the process of cutting weight. I forgot his name, and I watched the whole video on how he cuts weight through dehydration.
oh yeah, it's good. We
It's
talk
a
about
con-
that. Oh, we
that's
talk
a-
about that on the
That's
last.
very
one.
common.
Yeah.
They
Sure.
like spin into.
I
it.
was like, damn,
It's crazy,
That
yeah.
is their
Yeah.
career.
It's
and
really
like,
really crazy.
Dude, it's
like he wraps himself in a blanket and goes to a
Yeah.
sauna
right.
and is there for like 12
Dude,
hours.
They're trying to sweat as
Yeah.
much as possible.
And it's really
What
bad,
the
but this dude
hell?
missed weight by 3 pounds. And when it's 3 freaking pounds,
This
come
guy
on,
just
just
wasn't there to fight.
yeah. They were like, his trainers were like, Burns, it's time to do some cardio. He's like, hold up. He's just freaking dancing. He doesn't care about nothing.
Dude, we're
Why
like,
is he
he got-
fighting? Is he gonna lose his sponsors?
Well,
dude, we're like, he walks in the ring and gets knocked down 5 seconds.
even the way he was fighting, like
Dude, he got
he was
smashed
well,
in
he
the end.
should have won. Like he had a clear opportunity to win that fight. He had back control, and he gave the dude a lot of freaking. So having back control is a big thing.
What's
Not
back
only-
control?
back.
It's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It's controlling your back.
I have his back, like if I'm like sitting behind him,
Oh,
like
okay.
hugging him from the back.
Da, 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 da.
It's like how you can lift that other person up.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell them to when they come in, whoever it is. So anyways, yeah. How the hell did he get? So anyways,
To walk here.
so anyways, yeah. So he had back control when he went from. So he was winning. He had control, and he was like I think he was winning the fight until he lost. He was winning the fight. He
I
had
feel-
back control.
Yeah, it did switch, but he did have a point where he was like he got the other guy and
Yeah.
he was in the other guy's guard.
But when you saw the reversal from the dude,
That was a nice reversal, yeah.
yeah, but also he left a lot of space for him to make the reversal.
Dude,
And
that guy was not there to fight, bro.
he could have gone from. I mean, also I'm talking about some friggin' idiot who like thinks he knows things about jujitsu. That's me. And this dude Burns is obviously like a really.
But it's very different when you're in there because
Exactly.
they're very slippery, and then you have the punches coming in too. So like that's the thing when they're
Those are
trying
the
to get
cages
choke.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're in an MMA setting, like when you're in a jiu-jitsu setting, it's okay sometimes to give up back control to go into guard. But when you're in an
Yeah.
MMA setting, you have to be very
Yeah.
willing to go from back
Yeah.
control to mount.
Yeah, like guards are very different. Like it's a different kind of advantage in jiu-jitsu compared to MMA. You don't really want to be like
you don't want to be
Yeah.
unless you're really like
unless
Tony
you're really like
Ferguson,
yeah, exactly.
someone
Unless
like
you
that.
know how to work off your back
Yeah.
really well. But unless, if like someone like Khabib's on top of you, you're not gonna be like I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
DC versus yeah.
Are you black belt?
No.
No
I
way.
am a freaking nobody in jiu-jitsu. I just love it. I love training jiu-jitsu. I'm a freaking nobody.
Wait, when did you start training?
My sophomore year.
Oh, here at Rutgers. Oh,
Here
no,
at
you're high
Rutgers.
school.
No, here at Rutgers.
Oh, here at Rutgers.
Because
You joined the
the
jiu-jitsu.
person that ran the jiu-jitsu club was Gary Tonin, who is like a highly ranked individual in the entire world.
Damn.
Like
He's also
very
fighting
up there.
There's
one
so many
championship.
unique
Yeah.
people here at Rutgers that
Just
I
crazy.
wish I always had access
Dude,
to.
he lives in New Jersey, you know that?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
They say
I mean, there's
say,
a UFC gym.
Yeah,
right
Frankie
here,
Edgar's
right?
gym, right?
That's
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar's like who's a former champion too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Gordon Ryan.
Right.
Gordon Ryan,
Huge Brazilian
who's the
jiu-jitsu guy.
he's from here, and he was actually his partner. He's on the same team as the person who was the trainer at the Rutgers Jiu-Jitsu. Gordon Ryan is the best in the world at no-gi Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And he was saying that Gordon Ryan is freaking dummy sometimes, but he was saying that New Jersey is like the Dagestan
The
for
hub.
Jiu-Jitsu. And it's true. He's
Dagestan.
freaking true. Because you know how Dagestan produces these like insane fighters?
Yes, Eastern Europe. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Like
Khabib and his whole camp, they're all
insane
Dagestan.
grapplers.
Yeah.
Are everyone from Dagestan Muslim?
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly, right?
They're all Muslim.
They're all Chechens, right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
for the most part. Okay.
So Gordon Ryan
It's so
was saying,
interesting. You guys ever think about that?
Yeah.
Like,
it is really interesting.
like that's all. I don't know if that's Turkish blood, but that's that comes from somewhere. Either that's Persian,
Yeah.
or I'm getting into a weird topic here, but I've seen that, and they all have Muslim names.
Yeah.
And
They're all
some-
Muslim, and they're all very religious Muslims.
Really?
Like, it's
Yeah,
not,
fuck
yeah.
I didn't know
You
that.
do-
I
you
know.
do-
I thought Eastern Europeans
Every time
not
Khabib
shaky.
makes a win, he does sajda.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very, they're very, very
That's
religious,
so
practicing
interesting.
Muslims.
That's
Dude,
mind baffling. You
every
guys think
every
of that?
interview, he's like, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pakistan's
dang.
part of Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we freaking said before.
No. So it's on the western part, correct?
Yeah.
Correct me if
It's
I'm
next
wrong.
to- No, it's next to Georgia and Armenia. And
Yeah. So it's western.
But-
So
Yeah.
southwestern,
Southwest.
which is where most of the Chechen Muslim stronghold is, right? All the there are Russian Muslims, right? All the Russian Muslims came from Eastern Europe. If you guys know about the Chechens and the Chechen conflict, it was all about It was all about the epicenter of Turkish, Afghanis, and all of the other ones coming into influencing Islamic.
Yeah.
Creating Islamic stronghold in Western Russia, right? Or Southwestern, Eastern Europe in general.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe we should do our research.
Now, don't quote me on all this history, or if I'm wrong, please, correct me if I'm not wrong or whatever. But what I do know is that there's a large majority of Chechens that were Muslim, and Eastern Europe has an interesting Islamic history.
What,
And the origin of that is really interesting. I haven't really read into it, but it's like one of my. I think I was reading a Wikipedia article on it at one time. But it's kind of crazy to think that a lot of those fighters are from Dagestan and they're semi-Muslim.
They're
right?
very Muslim. Like they're very Muslim.
That's interesting.
They're very Muslim.
And they're
Like
fighters. Like, can you believe that?
They
have,
post people who post Quran on their they make an Instagram post. That's like they're extremely practicing Muslims. They're very deep in their faith, and their faith is like the driving factor in their lives. Just as it is ours, and they're fighters. And it's
you also know what's interesting, like the fact that they're wrestlers. Like wrestlers are so dominant in MMA.
Yeah, so they're really good at wrestling. And
like Daniel Cormier is champion. Like every wrestler.
Let's talk about that fight. So
the DC
you're talking
fight?
about DC, yeah, and then we should start wrapping things up.
I thought that was really good back and forth.
It was a really good fight.
I really wanted a knockout, but either way, it was still like good.
Yeah, if you saw our last UFC thing, you might know I'm a big DC fan. I'm a huge DC fan.
It's
I
your
love
favorite
DC.
fighter, right?
He's my favorite fighter, and it was but the thing is, I have a lot of respect for Stipe. I think Stipe is a great fighter. I wanted DC to win. I'm not it was upsetting because this. Not only is it upsetting because DC lost, but also this is probably the way he goes out.
Yeah,
That's probably the way he goes out.
retired. Yeah,
and it's sad to see, man. It's super freaking sad to see.
You guys have a player team like you always watch, and have you ever gotten really mad when some team or something lost?
Not really.
Not really?
Depends. It depends.
For me, when I watch UFC fight, I have this favorite fighter, Dominic Cruz.
It used to be TJ Dillashaw, and then he got.
No, look. Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw were always interchangeable for me because I like both their fighting styles. For me, I like Dominic Cruz. I started liking him more just because I started studying his footwork more.
What?
I just thought he had I just liked the way he went about.
We
his
should.
fighting. But I'm just saying,
how long is each match usually?
Championship match is 25 minutes, 5 rounds.
Up to 25 minutes.
Yeah, and then each round's 5 minutes. A championship fight's 5
one
rounds.
round is 25 minutes.
5 minutes. No, one round is 5
One
minutes,
round's
and there's
5
5
minutes.
Oh,
rounds.
so they're pretty quick matches.
Each
when you
fight's
watch them.
usually 3 rounds unless it's a championship fight. It's 5 rounds.
Okay.
So last thoughts about UFC 252. Sean O'Malley went down. Sad to see.
He had a right leg injury.
Sad to see because Sean O'Malley had so much hype around him.
Yeah.
He still does.
He still does it because after the way he lost didn't derail his hype.
Yeah.
Wait, who's that UFC fighter? Sorry to interrupt. Who's that fighter? Conor McGregor is UFC, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so didn't he challenge Floyd Mayweather? That was
He
like
did.
2
He
years
boxed
ago.
him.
Last
Yeah,
year?
he boxed him, yeah.
Oh, he boxed him. He didn't do UFC with him.
Dude,
right?
if he did UFC with him, it would be clear. There
so-
wouldn't be any
we were actually talking about this before. I think this was off the podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, never
And
mind.
you were talking about and you were mentioning how boxers how they would fare up against
right.
UFC fighters.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
they
Conor,
wouldn't stand
yeah.
a chance.
Conor McGregor stepped into the ring with Floyd Mayweather, and he stood a chance. I mean, Floyd Mayweather.
He got him down. Yeah.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather
I mean,
definitely.
he's Mayweather.
Yeah,
right?
Mayweather dominated.
Mayweather also has really interesting footwork. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys have realized he's
Yeah, he
he's
does.
he's an avoider and not a confronter.
Yeah,
right?
he's very
and he
good
knows
at-
how to.
yeah.
He's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Conor McGregor. So when Conor McGregor steps into the ring with him, people were like, okay, Mayweather's gonna win, but Conor has a shot. Conor has a shot.
Exactly.
And
It
but
wouldn't go the same way
if it
around.
was
in
the
MMA.
other way around.
Because dude, MMA, you could just
Oh
leg kick him
my
if you
God.
wanted. all
Leg kick
day.
him, and there's a bunch of grapplers in the MMA. If you can't grapple, you're freaking
Dude.
done.
Dude, he could
Obviously,
be-
because Mayweather is
Yeah.
not trained in the UFC.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
right?
saying
So-
about you.
But even just in a
Yeah.
This is
striking
why I like
sense,
UFC so much more.
But
than
it was
boxing.
dumb for him to challenge that because that also hit his
Yeah.
validity a little bit.
Yeah.
Didn't it?
Who, Conor?
So, yeah.
But this
Nah,
is
I
what
don't
like
think so.
this just bolstered his fame.
Yeah, yeah.
Like getting that
Yeah.
Oh, you
fight.
think so?
Yeah, because dude, he
You
talks
know-
about on Twitter all the time. They're even talking about a second fight.
You know,
Really?
you know who would have been,
Interesting.
you know who would have been sick in the UFC that was also an insane boxer? Mike Tyson, because
Mm.
you can get away with. So you need to know some sort of grappling and some sort of striking. Mike Tyson was an Olympic bronze medalist wrestler,
I didn't know that.
and
Yeah.
he obviously is the boxer he is.
Yeah.
He would have
Dude,
killed
having
in
like
the UFC.
any wrestling background tremendously helps you.
He would have killed
Yeah.
in the UFC. I personally think Mike Tyson would have been a belt holder in the UFC in whatever division he was in.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah,
I'm sure he has investors in UFC. Or
Yeah.
like-
yeah, probably.
yeah,
Probably
he's still
does.
alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually apparently he's Muslim.
Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah, I
Muslim.
saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's really interesting. I might need it, but that's really cool. Dave Chappelle is also Muslim.
Dave Chappelle's also Muslim.
Yeah.
And he actually admits it. Like he's not.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle.
He's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Mm.
not shy about it.
And Dave Chappelle is my favorite comedian of all freaking time. So it just brings me so much
Bro,
joy.
Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle's the epitome of confidence.
Dave Chappelle's hilarious, bro. He's popular too, man.
Yeah.
Is
And
epitome
then the
right?
guy under him,
Epitome.
who came to
Epitome.
Rutgers. I don't know if you guys remember that event that we did at Rutgers with Hamid Amr. You guys remember that Eid event?
No.
Oh,
That
the
was your first year. So that was your first
yeah,
year,
you
right?
know that event. I actually went to that event, but Hamza was like, "Yo, we gotta go get forks. You wanna come with me?" So I missed the whole.
Forks.
But
Missed
that
the whole amount.
but that comedian I heard.
Yeah. So he opened with Dave Chappelle. Him and Dave Chappelle are one of like very close buddies. He
Wow.
basically Muhammad Amr. I knew him from the way before. Funny fact: one of my uncles is a comedian, by the way.
Oh, really?
Who worked with Muhammad Amr.
Wow.
Yeah, his
Oh,
name
wow.
is Azhar Usman.
Damn, bro. Umar just keeps
You know,
connecting.
I've done some stand up myself. Actually, it's on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
I gotta check that out. Interesting. But yeah, so basically Muhammad Amr, who came at Rutgers, I don't know if you guys remember, did a
remember.
really funny show for Eid
I
banquet.
feel a lot of people had like weird opinions about it, but also you can't please the Muslim crowd here at
Dude,
Rutgers.
there's
Yeah, I mean,
with comedians.
look, no,
bro,
he knew that he was coming to campus, and
Mm.
like they kind of toned their audiences.
Yeah.
And when he comes to like he has his set jokes for
Yeah.
campuses,
Right.
and then he's also like set like some like comedians are pretty well versatile. They fit
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
audience,
Right.
right? So if he's coming to campus, he knows he has to be campusy.
Yeah.
So he was campusy probably, and I don't know if the MSA community took that in a good way or took that in a negative way, but
Yeah.
but interesting thing to know is that he's a very
Yeah.
very funny person.
Yeah.
You know, he's now like very popular because he opened with Dave Chappelle the last couple of years.
Mhm.
That led him rose to fame, and then he stars in the Netflix show with another Rutgers alum
Wow.
called Rami. I don't know
Oh,
if you've seen the
yeah,
Rami
yeah,
show.
yeah.
He's the one
He's
of
a
the main.
Rutgers alum?
Yeah, Rami is a Rutgers alum, dude.
What?
Rutgers
The
Newark.
Hulu show?
Yes. He
Oh, we
went-
were actually gonna get him my sophomore year. MSA was gonna get
Rami?
Rami. but
Yeah,
then I was
Rami-
like, nah, he's not that funny.
Yeah.
I don't think Rami is that funny.
No, he is pretty funny. Well,
No, for my
I
opinion.
haven't seen his stand.
not for like our types of jokes.
Is he a stand-up?
I just think
He's a little bit more liberal in
I
his
think
jokes.
I think
Yeah.
he's a little forced. No, even if he's liberal, I know.
He does stand-up, Rami?
Yeah, he used to do stand-up. He
I
does
just
stand-up
started-
too.
I only knew about his show.
Yeah, so Rami's a Rutgers alum, by the way. He's from North Jersey,
That's crazy.
and a lot of
North
Rutgers.
Jersey?
I have a lot of mutual friends that were close to him. Yeah.
So,
So he's on Rami's show, by the way. This Muhammad Amr
Dude.
comedian.
I know.
So they're all killing the game right now. All these like
That's crazy.
they're two very famous.
You know what was crazy about Dave Chappelle? Like
Yeah.
the way he just delivers his jokes, like it's not just like jokes, right? He's like talks about like real
should
issues,
answer
and like his old stand-ups are like relevant to this
Mhm.
day, which is
Yeah.
crazy. That's why I think he's like one of the best.
I hate to cut this short, but I think we're at like
Yeah.
2.5 hours, right?
Yeah,
What are we at?
2.5 hours.
Okay, so real quick, Umair, you're a big business guy. We're looking for a sponsor. So if you were, I asked Tariq
Yo,
this too.
imagine we get sponsored by Hult Price.
If you were, if you were to put like a market value on this podcast
give
right
us a
now, what would you say it is?
$1 million.
I would give it.
What, like
I would give it-
200K?
I would give it no value. It's unlimited value.
Damn.
I don't like that answer. I don't like that answer.
I want a number.
I want a fucking number.
Wait,
It's a numbers game. You
Life
think
doesn't
cost-
have. Not everything in life can be quantified.
I don't like that answer.
Yes.
Hult Price can give us a number.
You think some business owner is gonna hear you said that? I'm in.
I
Say a
think.
number. Make it up.
The number that I would give it would be $500,000 right now, because you
Times
support.
Within-
You extrapolate 60,000 students at Rutgers that were Rutgers students. You extrapolate that to.
extrapolate.
You extrapolate that to $10 per person. That's a lot of money. It's almost $600,000. So $500,000 is my access, because if you develop a really good podcast that becomes top by Rutgers, then you get access to that community.
And
We're not getting.
you can
bought
sell
out of
anything
Rutgers,
with
bro.
it
We're not
through that
trying
channel.
And listen, so we're just starting up now. So that's his prediction. That's his market value, his estimate, and we're just starting up. Hey, so be a quick mover.
Right.
That's actually how like investors
Fast moving.
evaluate your business. They'll be like, who do you have access to? How are you going to tackle the market? And that's my analysis for you guys.
Hey, and let me just say, we tackling the market to the ground pretty soon. I don't know if that fits.
No,
That's
no.
like a
We're gonna have to edit this out.
no.
We don't, bro.
No.
Stop making editing
You
harder,
freaking
bro.
should be a freaking communist.
Zuri doesn't even edit, bro.
Should be a freaking commie.
Oh my god.
All right.
You don't even know what market value means. You freaking communist.
Is he muting?
Is that a thing to you?
Zuri's muting your mic right now.
I didn't even know.
Were you really?
I was about to cut him off.
Damn, bro, I got X-ray vision.
So just to end, I just want to thank you guys for having me on today.
Of course.
Thank
And,
you so much for coming.
yeah.
Some beautiful insights.
Shout out to Hasib.
It was
I
an
just
awesome
like to say that.
conversation,
Yeah.
and like just like I think the one thing that I want to step away from is like, let's just start creating value in our lives, guys, because that's
Because Umair's
that's gonna help
investing.
us move our life forward.
Umair's investing in people.
Absolutely.
He's
Yeah.
investing in us.
Well, I want to thank, first of all, I want to reciprocate that. Thank you, Umair, so much for coming. And
Taking
as-
time out of your busy day. He came all the way from Malaysia to do this podcast.
think about how many LinkedIn messages
from
you could
New
have sent during this time. It's been what, 2.5 hours? That's what.
Umair missed his daily quota.
Yeah, that's like 100 LinkedIn messages that he could have sent.
He missed out. He missed out on a 3-hour urinal talk.
If you guys want, I'm not gonna be.
If you want to be Umair,
No. I was gonna say we're gonna head to the bathroom after this.
if you want to meet Umair, you know where to find me.
funny thing is, I had a shirt back in high school which used to say, "Whoops, there goes my wudu."
Perfect.
Which is like would be a good factor to go to the
Literally
bathroom
perfect.
to network. So.
Yeah, we should've worn that shirt.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and these podcasts, more than it is as like a thing, like obviously the podcast to some degree is things that we want to get out and we want people to listen to, but it's also for us to enjoy. And let me just say, I genuinely enjoyed myself this episode.
This was a good episode.
I hope you did as well.
Yeah.
I think we had some great conversation.
Of course.
Episode with Umair.
And make sure, if you don't already, follow us on the Instagram.
Yeah,
at
I
Redbuddies
see
Podcast.
more Instagram followers, but I'm not seeing any subscriber growth.
And if you're
That's facts.
yeah, so actually, if you're watching this video, freaking subscribe.
Yo, stop freaking liking our freaking clips and watch our freaking podcast.
Yeah.
No, whatever you have time for. We're not gonna force you to.
Man,
do
I know
nothing.
you guys have a freaking summer quarantine.
We're not gonna force you to do
I
nothing.
see who's following us, bro.
Watch it we're gonna release clips and stuff like
Shout
that.
out to Hasib again.
Shout out to Hasib. But
As
let's
we
wrap
watch it.
up. Any last minute? Last second things?
No,
Subscribe
we're
to
good.
comrades.
Subscribe.
For more communism.
Subscribe. Each subscription and like is
Each subscription will help Zarir.
Add Umair
become-
Masood on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
add me on my Twitter, MASSEDLY, massively.
massively.
There we go.
And with that, we'll catch you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Take care.